Ladies and gentlemen, welcome live to 3 Wide TV and tonight's broadcast of the Kirkwood Transportation 200 here from Auto Club Speedway and another race for the American Sim Racing Series and the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. We got an absolute doozy lined up for you here tonight. If you thought Las Vegas last week was exciting, well, make sure to keep watching us here tonight because American Sim Racing always puts on an absolute show here on 3 Wide TV. And joining me in the booth here tonight is Mr. Menards himself. Gotta beat you to the punch there, Jim. But it is Mr. Jim Foose. And of course, Carlos Acosta is doing the cameras here behind the show. But Jim, last year when we came to Auto Club in the Premier Series, it was the first time we got to debut this new package with the Cup cars. Well, this year in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, these drivers are used to it, and they're going to have to deal with these Cup cars all season long. And I'll tell you what, they put on a great show last week. What are you expecting to see here tonight?
Absolutely, man. That show last week at Las Vegas was pretty amazing. Tonight, you're going to see a lot of fast and furious cars going around this 2-mile track right here, right near Hollywood as we are in Southern California. One of the fastest tracks on the schedule and one of the oldest surfaces on the schedule as well. So you're going to see a lot of bumps. You're going to see cars moving around, multiple grooves of racing, hopefully. And once again, pack racing at the front of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a lot of pack racing last week at Las Vegas. In fact, really, the front 4 or 5 cars were inseparable for a lot of those runs. It took some green flag pit stops to really start to break up the field. And of course, we saw a lot of green flag racing last week, especially in the first half of the race. And the second half was a little bit more action-packed, but I'm expecting to see that a little bit more here tonight. It's going to be a little bit wider racetrack here at this 2-mile D-shaped oval in Fontana, California. That wide racetrack, we heard it from a lot of drivers last week in the post-race interviews that they're expecting this racetrack to be a lot of fun to race around, a lot of passes they're expecting to see tonight. Jim, as a race car driver, how do you approach a racetrack like this? It's not a super speedway. It's not flat out, but these drivers, for a good majority of this race, will be on the full gas pedal.
Well, you take your notebook from Michigan, which is the same size, same layout racetrack, and you just throw it out the window on the plane on the way out here because it does not apply. When Roger Penske built the California Speedway, now the Auto Club Speedway, they took the design of the Michigan International Speedway, made some changes that they thought would make the racing even better, and built this track here. But it's totally different. This track's a little bit wider. It seems to be a little bit faster, and as we've noticed, the bumps have come into play. As far as passing here at the Auto Club Speedway, the best way to do it is to get out of the air from the car in front of you. You want to draft up and use the air, the bubble of air to catch that car. But when you get to the corner, you want to be in the opposite lane as that driver. So if he's down low, you want to be up high. If he's up high, you want to be down low. If he's in the middle, well, you got to pick somewhere to go and try to get the nose in some clean air just to get some downforce on the nose. So really just a different kind of racing that we're going to see here tonight than what we saw at Las Vegas last week, and totally different than Daytona just a few weeks ago, although we'll still see pack racing as the race progresses.
Absolutely, and of course, this is round 3 of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. Let's see if we can bring up those points for you because it's pretty close up at the top, and of course, this is so early in the season. John Jenkins getting the win last week and taking home his first checkered flag of the season is leading the points over Ed Bray, who is tied for second on points with James Lorello. And I'll tell you what, Jim, James jumping into the series so fast and coming off with 2 good races, being up there tied for second in points, it's a little bit surprising to me. What are your thoughts about that currently?
It really does surprise me to see a new driver come in like that, but James won his debut in the Truck Series over at Atlanta, and that was a tough race. I think there was an early caution, and that was it. Everybody had to go from there to the finish, but so, I mean, he came in, he made a big splash, and he's been really competitive all the way through. And as we progress through Daytona Speed Week and then into Las Vegas last week, he just has shown that he has what it takes. He's up high enough in the points to have earned a locked-in spot already, as long as he stays within that range. So, I mean, he's just really on it. really looking for a lot of good things out of him, and possibly a win here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series sooner rather than later.
Yeah, currently Chris Stouffer, 5th in points. Of course, he's new to the lead, but new to the league, I should say. But looking at the current entry list there, Jim, I do not see Chris Stouffer in that entry list.
Yeah, the 46 did not make the trip out here to Auto Club Speedway. They had a family thing they had to take care of and decided to skip the Auto Club race here tonight. So it's going to shake up the points even more. Kind of like an old Talladega Nights Ricky Bobby shake and bake. There's another movie reference.
Yeah, we're going to hear quite a few movie references from the way things are going here tonight, Jim. But we have race cars on the track right now for the qualifying session, and there is the number 81 machine currently going around the racetrack, driven by Shane Parrish. There's the 51, of course, your reigning series champion, the 51 of Mitch Brown. And Mitch was very, very fast when we came here last year, Jim. I'm expecting to see him be a force to be reckoned with here tonight. There's the number 33 of Tony Schoen. And, of course, we didn't see all too much of Tony Schoen last season, but a very, very fast race car driver. I'm expecting to see him up there near the frontier tonight as well in that number 33 machine. There's a number 97. That's Andy Veltman, sporting a very good-looking Toyota Camry, going through turn number 1 and 2. Let's see if we can go on board with one of these race car drivers right now, just so you can experience the bumps that these drivers will have to face. They will be able to feel the bumps through their steering wheel as we ride on board with the number 1 of Jason Stewart. Just kind of watch our gyro cam here. You see all those bumps, just kind of adjusting the angle of that camera through the center of the corner. There you go, over those bumps right in the center of turn number 1 and 2. You know, like you said, Jim, similar to Michigan in its shape and its size, but much less banking here. And all those bumps on the back stretch causing havoc. Here we go into turn number 3 and 4 now. It's a little bit smoother in turn number 3 and 4, and you also get the benefit that the track opens up on the exit of the corner. I've always felt like you can carry just a little bit more speed through turn number 3 and 4 to get down here on the front straightaway. And Jim, one thing that was noted prior to this race is going below that white line, it's not out of bounds here. It is fair game here at this racetrack.
Yes, not a double yellow line like Daytona and Talladega, so it is fair game to go down there, just like it was last week at Las Vegas, and you see a lot of that in the racing. So yeah, really, it's a unique racetrack with the bumps, with the way that the asphalt has aged over the course of the years. I mean, this asphalt here is like 24 years old. It and Atlanta are the oldest surfaces on the track on the series. Auto Club opened before Atlanta had its reconfiguration completed in its first race. So this is officially the oldest asphalt on the Cup Series schedule right now. So really, I mean, that's going to be my key point. I think that's gonna be a cheese grater with the tires here tonight. And remember, 3 sets of tires for this race as well.
Yeah, and of course, that was going to be the next thing I was going to bring up, was just the fact that these drivers do not have an unlimited number of tire sets. They only can change tires 3 times, and it doesn't matter whether you take 4 or 2, that counts as a full tire change. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers manage that here tonight. We saw some different strategies last week at Las Vegas. In fact, it almost won the number 51 of Mitch Brown the race. He saved a set of tires right towards the end of the race, and really, had he had probably 2 or 3 more laps, he would have won that race because we had a late race caution. There's the number 3 of James Lorello. So it'll be interesting to see if we see something similar here tonight, but only time will tell. Currently, the number 89 machine sitting atop the leaderboard, that is David Washington. Of course, Washington is one of the Surf Pro machines here tonight. There's a couple of them. The 81 of Shane Parrish being another one of them. Eric Stanford in the 85 also being one of those cars. And if memory serves me correct there, Jim, the 89 actually didn't make the show at Las Vegas, so this would be a good bounce back for him.
Absolutely. They missed the race at Las Vegas and made it here at Auto Club. So their West Coast swing has not gone to waste. But Really interesting here in qualifying. You watching Mark Cohn there in the 39. He's making his debut, California guy, with that 39 machine, and looks like he's currently 12th fastest on the board there with a 41.064. A little bit slower than practice, as we expect. Single car runs versus in the draft runs, and the draft does make quite a difference here.
Yeah, and how about those Surf Pro machines currently running 1-2 with the 89 David Washington and the number 85 Eric Stanford? I mean, that would be a pretty cool lockout of the front row. Two bright green and orange machines on the front row if the times hold up for now, but provisionally, David, on the pole, there's Lorello. Looks like Lorello might be running just some extra lap times here to try and get a little bit extra practice in before the start of the race. He's currently being scored down in 20th position here in qualifying, but only 23 qualifiers so far. And Jim, part of that is what we saw last week at Las Vegas was some restart violations. And I said it at the very beginning of last week's race that the field wasn't quite bunching up. And I know that's been a hot hot talking point this week amongst the ASRS drivers, was just how much do you have to bunch up, and kind of tell us a little bit about that rule and how some of these drivers fell foul of it and what their penalty is this week.
Well, yes, there is a long list of drivers that are going to the rear. They're just not going to take qualifying time here. Almost half the field fell on the wrong side of the restart rule last week at Las Vegas. So what happens is that the restarts have a certain amount of space that you're allowed to have between the car in front of you and essentially the front of your car. And per the rules, it is 1 car length with a 1 car length grace given. So anything more than 2 car lengths is a penalty. Well, that penalty becomes an R1 penalty, Racecraft 1 penalty, and an EOL to start the race. The biggest thing about Las Vegas is that we saw, and we saw it at Daytona as well prior, and we've seen it in a couple other races, but it was really bad at Las Vegas last week in this series, is that slinky effect, the rubber band on the restarts. You know, one guy 4 rows back decides that he's going to hit the gas, and the guy behind him hits the gas, and then they got to slam on the brakes because the guys in front of them didn't go. There's nothing to really be gained on the restarts before you get to the start finish line. You can't really, do a whole lot. You can't pass to the left for that matter. You can't use the apron or anything like that. And the track's essentially blocked. And so what we're trying to do with the restart rules is just try to keep everybody in line without restricting everybody to staying in line. If you want to pull out to the right and pass because the car in front of you is slower or damaged or misses a shift or what have you, that's all fine, in terms of the rules. The problem is the drivers that are hitting the gas and hitting the brake. The speeds varied somewhere around 9 miles per hour on some of the cars last week, from acceleration to deceleration, and we're talking rapid deceleration using the brakes, and the car behind him piles up, and then it just stacks up the field from there. And we ended up with big gaps in the field, cars getting out of line, cars getting squirrely, and on some occasions cars going down to the apron and into the grass during restarts. And that's really, there's no reason for that to be going on during these races. These guys should know better. We're at the Premier Series level, and so we got to get the restarts in line. And race officials cracked the whip last week over there in Vegas, and we'll see what happens here at Auto Club Speedway tonight.
Yeah, so far only 23 cars have taken time. In fact, the checkered flag is now out here in qualifying. So 23 cars take time, and then the rest of the field will be set based off of practice times and such. So pretty interesting to see how that's all going to play out here when we go to the grid here in just a second. But I do want to give a shout out to Kirkwood Transportation for, of course, sponsoring tonight. Kirkwood Transportation 200. It's going to be 100 laps around this 2-mile racetrack. And I got to give a shout out to some of our other sponsors: Hacksaw PC, Surf Pro, DB Sim Racing, American Regardless, Glassdoor Brewing, Victory Lane Quick Oil Change, Kirkwood Transportation, Patriot Media and Marketing, Step Tire, and Falcon Race Wraps. But let's go down to tonight's starting lineup, and starting on the pole, redemption from Las Vegas for David Washington in that number 89 Surf Pro machine, and he'll start alongside his teammate, the number 85 Eric Stanford, on row number 1. Good pole for that man right there in the 89 machine. Row number 2 will be filled by the number 83 of Craig Evans. We'll have to keep an eye on him. Very, very fast at Las Vegas. Tyler Seville on the outside of row number 2 in the number 11 machine. Row number 3, we find the number 65 of Travis McDaniel, as well as the number 84 of Woody Mahan. Good-looking machine right there. That number 84 right in the center of your screen. Row number 4, we find the number 19, Cody Spiker, in that race car on the inside group. Got Snap-on the hood. And to his outside, the number 7 of John Jenkins. Row number 5, we find the number 33 of Tony Show, and I kind of said, hey, watch out for him. And to his outside, the number 81, one of the other Serve Pro drivers, one not on the front row. We'll be starting this race from the top 10 there, Jim.
Yep, and starting in 11th, the defending champion of this series, Mitch Brown, and making his first start of the season, Mark Cohn in the number 39. Canadian Michael Krobach starts 13th with Brandon Stokes alongside in 14th. Jason Stewart starts in the 15th position with teammate Clarence Bonner in 16th. Michael Whiting starts off row number 8 with Edward Bray alongside. And Alex Giese and James Lorello, sorry, that was row number 9. Alex Giese and James Lorello, row 10, rounding out your top 20.
Starting in the 21st position will be the number 24 of Alan Young. Andy Veltman will start to his outside on row number 11. And the last car to take time here is the number 17 of Richard Stalling, starting from the 23rd position. Behind him, Craig Stykes will roll off 24th. Kelsey Rogers and John Broussard will roll off from 25th and 26th. Christopher Bouchard and Brian Yazik will start from 27th and 28th, while the 29 machine of Will Warser will roll off from number 29. Jimmy McKee will start to his outside on row number 15. Adam Jersky and Jake Douglas will roll off row 16. Tim Knott, Ty Hester, row 17. Remember, Ty Hester won back at Daytona a couple weeks ago. Jared Haggerty and Troy Haight, row 18. Dave Wilson, Richard Fletcher, row 19. And rounding out your 40-car field here, the 02 of Sam Crow and the number 12 machine of Steve Buhala. But Jim, should be a fantastic race tonight, and I'm expecting to see this pace car dive onto pit lane here. It will be this time next lap. Full song for all of these race cars because the flag man has the green flag in hand. And here we go, 200 miles for the Kirkwood Transportation 200. And we already got one car going down below the white line. That's the number 6 of Jared Haggerty right in the back. Starting to go 3. Oh, we already got a caution. There's cars everywhere on the front stretch. There's a couple of cars in the inside wall. That's the Craig Stykes and the Porcupines machine. And a couple of other cars getting involved. The number 29, Will Worsler. Couple of the Porcupine Slice machines and Will Worsler Racing involved here. And my, oh my, Jim, we were talking about this not too long ago. And Mark Kahn and the number 39 machine going around. I'm sure that's not what he wanted in this race. He's already off the racetrack. But, wow, we're going to have to see if we can digest that, see what happened with that number 39 machine, Jim.
Yeah, I think the 39 may have missed a shift. What it looks like is that he just didn't go on the start. It stacked everybody up, and then they just went all over the place there. And cars on the inside wall. Looks like the 6 of Jared Haggerty was in it. Here we go. Now we're going to be on board with Mark Cohn and that number 39. You can see the field starts to accelerate. He accelerates. He gets to a point where we're not with Mark Cohn. But looks like the field accelerated, and then it just did not accelerate anymore. Not what you would expect here on the start at Auto Club Speedway.
I'm kind of watching this, and we're on board with Mark Cohn now. Watch what happens. It just all of a sudden, he did the money shift. He shifted down into either probably first gear there, because you watch those RPMs there on the left side of your screen, and all of a sudden those RPMs shot up instead of dropping down, as you would expect when he shifts up into third gear. Here we go, riding on board with one of the Slice Porcupines machines. Not quite sure if this is Will Worsler or Craig Stykes. This is Will Worsler for sure, because there's Craig Stykes spinning in front of him, and nowhere for him to go, unfortunately. Running into the side of his teammate. There's the number 6 of Haggerty. And just as I thought, the most exciting thing on that race start was the number 6 of Haggerty dropping below the white line. All the action unfolded in front of him. Here we go on board. Ooh, Haggerty might have a little bit of right front damage going through the grass. Whoa, doing a little bit of rally crossing in that Cheerwine machine, and finally brought it to a stop. So hopefully not too much damage for Haggerty. But we do have a couple of cars taking to pit road, including Jake Douglas, In the 49 machine, Will Worsler, Craig Stykes, Andy Veltman, Clarence Bonner, Brandon Stokes was involved in that, and of course Mark Cohn, who will receive an EOL penalty. He looks like he's kind of taking the blame for that one, Jim, but I'm sure all these drivers are going, no, that's not the way I wanted to start this race.
Well, we're not going to go caution-free here at Auto Club Speedway tonight.
That's for sure.
Oh man, that's a tough way to get it started. These guys got damage. Kind of reminds me of the Daytona Surf Pro Grand National start for me. We won't get into too many details about that one here tonight, though. I don't know if we can talk about that on TV.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's actually quite a few cars receiving damage in that one beyond what we saw. Dave Wilson, one of those drivers, receiving a certain level of damage as well. There's a couple of cars who have decided to stay out there on the racetrack, which is somewhat surprising given this is so early in this race. But there you can see the flagman throwing the yellow flag as the field rolls on by. The number 97 there of Andy Veltman a little bit further back in the pack. And looking at live timing and scoring, we have a couple of cars who have stayed on pit road and actually have lost a lap. Christopher Bouchard and Tim Knott, both one lap down. Unfortunately for Will Worsler and Craig Stykes, both of those Will Worsler racing machines, they are currently being scored 2 laps down. Mark Cohn, I believe, actually has pulled off and has taken the number 39 machine to the garage. So I mean, that is not the way he wanted to start in that number 39 machine, getting an ASRS start here tonight in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series in the Kirkwood Transportation 200. But there's a number 72 machine. That's Michael Krobach, of course, and I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with at some point in this race. Currently, he's being scored back in the 12th position. But, Jim, we didn't really get to choose anyone at the start of this race, but is there anyone in this race that kind of stands out to you that you're expecting to possibly take home the checkered flag tonight?
Well, I think Greg Evans has a really good chance. You know, he's had some bad luck to kick off the season with that 83 machine, but I think that tonight's the night that he turns the corner. But that's not really the only driver. You know, Tyler Seville won a truck race here a couple of years ago, and he's in that number 11. He's up front right now in the 4th position. So he's got a great shot at it. He's got some experience here and has that win under his belt from a couple of years ago. And, of course, Brian Yazek. How could you not pick Brian Yazek at a big track like this, although he's mired back in the 17th position currently?
Of course, Brian was one of those drivers who did not get to start in qualifying. But looking at your biggest movers, of course, your biggest movers, pretty much everyone at the back who wasn't involved in that accident. Jake Douglas currently up 11 spots, so he went from 32nd to 21st there pretty quickly. Brian Yazek up about 9 spots. There is the number 49 machine of Jake Douglas. You can see that rear end damage on that race car. There is Yazek there in that HPP Simulations machine. There's your reigning series champion for a brief second, and there is your current race leader and the pole sitter for tonight, the number 89 of David Washington. But out of the cars we have running, we have 35 cars on the lead lap. In fact, we got a couple of cars near the back of the pack hauling butt to try and get back to this pack because Steve Puhala right now is going through turn number 1 and 2. And just as I say that, we have extended the caution flag to allow the back half of the field to catch up with this lead group. So we will have 1 extra lap of caution here, Jim. Just so that field can line up, and that's kind of a good move. You know, it's still early in the race. We still have 95 laps to go this time by. We really haven't seen the green flag for more than probably 200, 300 yards in this race, as it seems. But, you know, we'll get everyone re-racked and get back to it here in just a moment.
Yeah, nothing is worse as a driver than being ready for the restart and having it waved off. That next lap just feels like it takes forever to get back around for the actual green flag.
Yeah, absolutely. But for Craig Stykes in the number 57 machine, he is loving every single lap of caution he can get because he's still sitting on pit road in that number 57 machine, now being scored 3 laps down, which is not how you want to start a race, just 5 laps into it. We'll have to see whether or not he can get back out there as this race continues. Also, we have the number 53 of John Broussard, who started in the 26th position. He's currently missing a hood in that number 35 machine, or excuse me, number 53 machine, getting a little bit mixed up there with the numbers. But as of right now, we have 35 cars on the lead lap, and luckily for Steve Buhala in the number 12, he has caught up to the back of the field in that Holco Enercon Ford Mustang, so he should be able to go with the field here. And of course, pack racing is very, very important on a racetrack like this, especially with this newer Cup Series package that we have here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. So you want to be with that pack, and just how difficult is it as a race car driver if you lose the pack, Jim?
Oh, it's impossible to get it back, and you just can't do it on your own. You got to have multiple cars. And with this package, you know, at Daytona and Talladega, you can get 2 cars bumper to bumper and push around the track and be really quick. With this draft package here, you just can't do that. And we're back green here at Auto Club Speedway for the Kirkwood Transportation 200. Just 7 laps in to the event.
Well, I think we've made it a little bit further than we did last time around. A little bit of bumping, a little bit further back in the pack. Kelsey Rogers and Steve Buhala kind of got a little bit out of lines going across the start-finish line, but up at the front, going a little bit single file, at least for now. Those 2 Surf Pro machines up at the front, 1 and 2. David Washington leading Eric Stanford going through turn number 3 and 4, but you see this pack. It's 2x2 a little bit further back, but up the front.
We got one going sideways down there. Got the, oh no.
Oh man,
Ty
that's
Hester's ring of bad luck just continue.
Yeah, Ty Hester back there. We also got Adam Jersky in the grass in the number 71 machine. This racetrack possibly a little bit more treacherous than these drivers thought. Oh, Ty Hester. Looks like Hester just got into the outside wall there and put that number 36 machine into a spin. Of course, sporting the Kirkwood Transportation on the hood. That's not what the race sponsor would have liked to see this one more time. And coming out of turn number 4, just getting up to the outside. Well, it looks like Alex Giese in the number 77 machine did the same thing there, Jim. And here you see the 77, he was able to save it. We'll have to see if we can get an onboard with the 77 of Giese, because that was a ridiculous save that he just pulled off there. But unfortunately, we're under the second caution here today.
Yeah, man, I wish we had Surf Pro for the beginning of this race. Make it like it never even happened.
Yeah, of course, Surf Pro is one of the best at cleaning things up, and cleaning this race up is what these drivers will need to do. There you see Giese getting into the outside wall. Man, the way that number 77 shot all the way to the left was pretty drastic, but you see he got back up on the racetrack after being completely sideways, and all the wrecking happening behind him. He just kind of slotted back into the field and said, all right, I'm good to go. I don't know what y'all are doing, but I got my number 77 pointed right. Here we go on board with the number 6 machine, and this is Jared Haggerty, who he needed a new pair of underwear after the first caution. Now, how about this one?
Oh, yeah, that was not good. And there he goes, and bam! Right.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of front-end damage on that number 6 machine once again, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see just how that caution flag was called. Looks like Ty Hester will be taking the claim for that one. He will be calling the accident, the yellow flag, and there he goes up into the wall. Who was that nailed the side of that number 36? Was that Jersky there, Jim, who ran into the 36 of Ty Hester?
You know, I believe it was. The replay went by really quick, and I was watching the front of the pack when the wreck happened there, so not really sure. Let's see here. We'll watch it again on 3-wide replay. There's the 36 car. He's able to get up out of the line there, smacks the wall, loses it, and that's common here at Auto Club. You just get out of line, you brush the wall, and it just sucks the car right on around, and the 71 and then the 6 into the back. And then right there, missed the 8 car as they went sliding around.
All right, so I got to say that slow-mo replay was awesome, and I'll tell you what, give the number 97 of Andy Veltman a gold star for not piling himself into the back end of that number 36 machine. He was able to get on the binders and wiggle his way out of that mess. And currently, as the number 97 rolls by here on the front stretch, no damage on that 97 Toyota. So that's pretty darn cool. And he's got the ilfcb.com machine running pretty good here tonight.
Yeah, that 97 car is a beauty, by the way. Nice Toyota that they roll out here. I'll tell you what, these restarts, the start and the one restart, have looked like rush hour as they've gotten pretty wide there on the track, battling down into turn one when we've made it that far. Hopefully we can make it more than a lap or so and get some green flag running going on here and get to see what happens with the tires and the fuel and everything else as the race goes on. 100 laps, 200 miles. It sounds like a long time here. It's not really that long as fast as the laps click off at the Auto Club Speedway here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series.
Got to give a shout out to some of the people that we have here in the chat. Cody Leland, Mark Grisa. Mark Cohn said did a money shift, and yeah, I've done it myself. Never fun. Nikki Worthler in the chat as well as always. Of course, rooting on Will. Unfortunately, Will's a couple laps down, but hopefully he can claw his way back into this race. Dulane in the chat as well saying, what is going on? Well, we'll have to find out. AJ Digby, no mercy in the chat. So make sure you make yourself heard. Fernando Matos saying, go WWR, Will Wilson Racing, and Dave Wilson. So got to say, how's it going, everyone? Make yourself heard as the Ford Mustang here tonight doing a little bit of a transforming there right on your screen. Not quite sure what
there you go.
is going on there. But we're hearing that this is a new feature on iRacing, turning cars into transformers. So, good old stuff here out in the desert. So, I'm hearing from Mr. Producer, PS1 graphics on that Ford Mustang pace car. Well, hopefully that can get sorted out. In fact, if you're looking a little bit further back in the pack, there are some cars missing windshields. Good old iRacing changing options on us here as we go through the season. But nonetheless,
hey, Peter,
what's up?
We've had a Ford Mustang lead every lap here tonight at Auto Club Speedway. So how about that one?
Yeah, so far so good. And we're getting word that the once again the caution has been extended by another lap by the admins. Ty Hester getting back out there on the racetrack in a fairly mangled Kirkwood Transportation Toyota Camry. There he goes down the backstretch. You can see that front end not looking quite as nice as it did at the drop of the green flag. Of course, a couple of cars at the start of the probably didn't even get to the start-finish line at the drop of the green flag without having a front end mangled up. So tough break for a couple of these drivers here tonight, but kind of interesting to see this here tonight, Jim. We talked with a lot of drivers last week at the end of Vegas, and they said this is a wide racetrack, much wider than Vegas, and they expected to see multiple grooves and a lot of clean racing. And so far, 12 laps in, we haven't seen that. So, it's always the flip of a coin of what type of racing you're going to see. And tonight, so far, a lot of action on the racetrack, just not a lot of green flag action.
Yeah, definitely. The Dixie Chicks had that hit song, Wide Open Spaces. Well, these guys have wide open spaces, and they're still running into each other. And I don't know. We haven't made it more than a lap under green yet, as we're now 12 laps. Going to complete 12 laps if we get around here for the restart. So not really sure what's going on, but, I like yellow. It's kind of the color of my Menards truck. So yellow's not a bad thing, but I definitely want to see some green and some green flag racing here as we get ready to go back racing field, heading off into turn number 3 as the Ford Mustang has the lights out. Hopefully the graphics will stay on it this time as we have a nice shot of it there. Those beautiful Ford Mustangs right behind it as well.
Yeah, and Jared Haggerty in the number 6 machine, he's just now coming off pit road, so he will not catch this field. So that will be a tough break for him as the pace car is on pit road. We're going to go back to green flag action here. And there we go. There's the green flag. And these drivers are back to it as the two Serve Pro machines led by The number 89 of David Washington will lead the field down into turn number 1. Looks like both of those Surf Pro machines getting single file. Greg Evans slotting into third, but it's side by side between Tyler Seville and Travis McDaniel in the 65 machine down there on the inside groove. McDaniel looks like he got a little bit sideways there coming out of turn number 2. Washed up the racetrack, and it looks like he might lose another spot to Cody Spiker in the number 19 machine.
You know, the track's really not that hot. It's about 86 degrees track surface, air temperature at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So not really sure why the track is so slick. We're going to see as they come out of turn 4 here if it is still slick. Looks like maybe the cleanup crew got something cleaned up there on the track, and now we're going. And hey, we've made it to turn 1 on the second lap after the restart. So hopefully we'll just stay with this and stay clean and green all the way to the end and have a great race all the way here.
It's going to be interesting to see how much of this caution flag running we've had in the early going affects the strategy as the race continues on. But we are looking out back of Eric Stanford's number 85 machine at the front end of Greg Evans there briefly. And Greg was challenging for that second position, but not able to do anything with it just yet, as all of these drivers hitting the stripe there. We got one car going down below on the apron. I think that might have been Edward Bray in the number 65 machine, or Tony Schoen in the 33. One of those race cars down there. But pretty much single file, at least for now, all the way back to around the 12th position, as James Lorello in the number 3 machine has ducked to the inside of that number 33 car. And we got the 3 and the 33 right together on the racetrack, so threes are wild here out in California, at least for now. Lorello unable to do anything there coming out of turn number 4, and I believe Schoen's got that draft down the straightaway. At least he did there briefly, as you see all of these cars kind of shuffle down to that inside groove going through the middle of this D-shaped oval. But we got a side-by-side battle for second. Brewing up the front. Look at Greg Evans in that number 83 machine trying to go around the outside of the number 85. Greg Evans trying to get that momentum up there on the high side. And Jim, I know you kind of expected him to be fast here tonight. He's trying to get that clean air on the front end of that race car to get the race lead.
Yeah, that clean air will pay dividends if he can get it to work. The one thing that we've seen, iRacing went to the new tire model, the V7 new tire model over the winter. Actually, this is the first races that we've run with the Cup Series. Has been the first couple races of the season here on 3-Wide TV. But what you're going to notice is that it took away a little bit of the dynamic track, the multiplying factors of the dynamic track and the grip levels and being able to go and do multiple lanes of racing. But Greg Evans has proven me wrong right now as he's got the clean air there. But the clean air should pay dividends as that 83 car gets out there. He also could keep his momentum up. He can come down and side draft a little bit. Bet you never thought that you would hear that outside of Daytona and Talladega. He can side draft a little bit and crowd the leader down the track a little bit just so that he breaks his momentum, has to slow a little bit, and doesn't have the forward momentum that the 83 will on the outside by having all that room. So we'll see. There's plenty of lanes here. You can play around with the air. You can knock the air off the sides of the other cars. All kinds of things you can do to get the lead, and looks like he's going to grab it, I believe.
Yeah, he got a good launch there coming out of turn number 2. And a little bit of help, actually, from Eric Stanford, the other of the Surf Pro machines, the 85 car, tucking up right underneath the 83, giving him a little bit of a shove down the backstretch. So definitely very, very close up at the front. It's going to be interesting to see who leads this lap, because they're going to be side by side right at the stripe. And in fact, it was David Washington by 4/1000ths of a second this time. But this battle for the race lead, this side-by-side battle just not going away. Look at Tyler Seville in the number 11 machine. He wants to come play in this battle for the race lead, as the number 65 of Travis McDaniel has fallen back to the 5th spot. At least that's where he started.
And where did Mitch Brown come from? Up to, I believe, 6th now in the 51. And right there, when it counts, trying to get the spot here. You know, this is the part of the race where we've been green for about 6 laps since that restart. But now you start thinking, okay, how long of a run is this going to be? Will I have to make a green flag pit stop? Is there anything I can do to save the tires? Is there anything I can do to save a little bit of fuel? You know, most of the front runners did not come down pit road and top off. Only a few towards the back did, and drivers with damage, I would imagine, also grabbed fuel on those stops. So now you start wondering, can I save a little bit? Is me being out front going to hurt me a little bit with having all that air on the nose of the car? What can I do? Oh, and we got a caution.
We have a caution as I say that, and we got one car stopped on entrance into turn number 3. Oh, that's James Lorello having a fantastic start to the season, but that looks to be possibly derailed here. Running side by side on the backstretch with the 66 of Edward Bray, and a little contact between those two, and up into the outside wall, possibly the number 1 machine getting some damage as well. We'll have to see if we can get another view, possibly from our helicopter cam, and see exactly what happened to Lorello there on the straightaway. To the outside of Ed Bray. Bray down there on the inside, and I don't know there, Jim. Maybe a little bit of coming together, and there's the number 1 Stewart coming into it, and a good job by the remainder of the field to avoid that spinning number 3 machine.
You know, the way that the bumps are on the backstretch, it would not surprise me if either the 66 car made a right turn or if the 3 car made a left-hand turn from the bumps. Sometimes those bumps will throw the cars in various directions, and it all depends on how you hit it, which way your wheels turn, and a lot on the speed. But that's been an issue that we've seen bite a couple drivers as the season goes on, and we'll probably see it here as well as, like I mentioned, the other track with the oldest surface, Atlanta, because that one's really bumpy on the backstretch. It throws cars all around, but that's really unfortunate for Lorello there in the number 3. Looks like he is going to get the fault for the caution there, as race control has issued that. So the 3 will be going to the end of the line, and we're on pit road.
Interesting to see this. We got kind of a split strategy going on here, Jim. We got a lot of cars on pit road, but we also have a good number of cars who are going to stay out. And we've gotten to the 20% race distance, and we got one car just stopped at the end of pit road here. I don't know if he even came down and took tires. That would, of course, be David Washington, who was scored as your race leader, and he did not come to his pit box. I don't know why Washington decided to come down pit lane. He was the pole sitter, so he expected to have the very last pit box right at the end of pit road, but he just didn't even turn. He just went straight, and he got stopped at the end of pit lane. So he's going to lose a ton of track position here for no benefit. That's really surprising to see, Jim.
Yeah, it's almost like he came down pit road and his pit crew was eating ice cream, and they couldn't pit the car. Another movie reference there, by the way.
Where did they buy that ice cream? Do you?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure they saved big money at Menards when they picked it up.
They probably had some coupons and stuff. But nonetheless, we currently are seeing a couple of other cars coming down pit road. Here comes the 85 machine. That is the second place machine of Eric Stanford. So some interesting pit strategy as Greg Evans in the number 83 machine gonna stay out here. And Sam Maxwell, the race official, jumps on board to tell everyone, hey, a couple things, and see if they can get them calmed down here. So we've had 3 cautions in the first 23 laps. But we're going to step away here for just a brief moment on 3 Wide TV, play a couple of commercials. We'll be right back here for the Kirkwood Transportation 200 in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series.
Every day in business starts with a number. Output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers, because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow or even stop. Unless you know this one, 1-800-SERVPRO, the number 1 choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and servpro.com.
All right, everyone, welcome back to 3Wide TV and the Kirkwood Transportation 200 here tonight. And I'll tell you what, it's been an interesting race so far. As you can see, all these cars working their way down the backstretch. And Jim, we're just now almost to the quarter race distance. You think these drivers gonna kind of think differently about this next quarter of the race and see if they can kind of calm things down and get a green flag run? I know a lot of these drivers will be hoping to, but now we have some different tire strategy in the field.
Yeah, we got some trouble down there in turns 3 and 4, as looks like the 7 has.
Well, not 100% sure what happened to the number 7 machine. See if we can see what happened. Looks like Michael Krobach in the 72 was off the pace as well. So there's the number 7, John Jenkins, going through on the entry into turn number 1 here. And, oh my goodness, did that car just die? Ooh, there goes the HPPsimulations.com, the 72 and the 55. And looks like John Jenkins, looks like his equipment just died all of a sudden there, Jim.
Yeah, hearing that it wouldn't shift out of the gear that it was in and had no control. So an unfortunate instance there for the number 7, but luckily just before the pace car pulled off, so the officials were able to throw the yellow, extend the yellow, do a wave off, and boy, we've had a lot of waved off restarts here tonight. So, man, I'll tell you, it might sound crazy, but I'm the kind of guy that'll go first, second, third, fourth, back down, third, second, back down to first, and then into second for the restart, just to make sure everything's good with the gears. But just really a freak thing there for the number 7 of John Jenkins, as now the field's all shaken up now. Tyler Seville will be next to Greg Evans for the restart, as they will come by to kick off to complete lap 25 and to take the green flag. We'll have to see how all these pit strategies work out as this second quarter of the race goes on.
All right, pace car is about to head down the straightaway. Here we go, green flag back in the air here at Auto Club Speedway for the Kirkwood Transportation 200. And it is the number 83 machine who leads the way going off into turn number 1 there, Jim.
Yeah, I fully expected Greg Evans to get out front, and I really expected him to drive away from the field. And I think that as this run goes on, now remember, some of those guys I believe took tires, so the tires might come into play, but all things equal, I expect the 83 car to pull away from the pack and get some distance between him, as now they're side by side. So I definitely am not right there. Looks like the 65 car passes the 83 for the lead.
So it's going to be interesting to see how these tires progress through the field. Currently, the highest placed driver with tires would be the number 51 of Mitch Brown. And as you said, Travis McDaniel taking that 65 to the front. Of course, McDaniel on the tires currently that he started tonight's race with, working his way through turn number 1 and 2 right now. Trying to get a little bit of help from Greg Evans here going down the backstretch. You see the front end of that Carolina SimWorks number 83 filling the camera as we dive off into turn number 3 and 4. Look at Tyler Seville in that number 11. We got Nikki Warser rooting for Tyler Seville at Will Warser Racing Machine, saying go Tyler. And to the inside of the number 19 of Cody Spiker. And so far, so good for that number 19 of Spiker here tonight as he works his way now into turn number 1 and 2. And what about Mahan back there in the 84 machine currently running inside the top 5 as things currently run? And I'm going to have to keep an eye on the number 51 of Mitch Brown, still in 18th. But last time by, fastest car on the racetrack, chalk that up to Mitch Brown with those fresh tires.
Yeah, I'm watching the 85 car as he's racing around Adam Jersky in the 71. Stanford there in the 85, and then right behind him, Shane Parrish in the 81 machine, both Surf Pro cars. They're back there in the mid-20s, but just a moment ago they were 3 wide with Jersky and then Andy Veltman. And Ty Hester's back there. A lot of cars that suffered damage early on, right there in from about 26th to 30th as we continue on here. So really unfortunate early in the race to have damage, but those guys making the most of it. And I'll tell you what, Peter, why don't we go through the field, or at least through the top 10?
Yeah, why don't we do that? Currently leading the race is the number 65 of Travis McDaniel, but there's that battle for the race lead. And Travis had a fantastic race last week at Vegas going and really showed a lot of pace out of that race car and trying to back that up with a good run here tonight. And that number 83, Greg Evans, who's going to go around him, around the outside. Very, very quick, both at Daytona and Vegas. Not having the results to show for it, but he's trying to get to victory lane here tonight, Jim. I know he was your choice. Very, very quick here as we see a side-by-side battle for second. Cody Spiker, how about him in that number 19 machine? As... You know what, Jim? We went through the field. Well, the field is changing. The field is absolutely changing right now. And the number 19 of Cody Spiker making his way now up into the second position. But all of a sudden, Travis McDaniel passed by the number 11 of Tyler Seville there, Jim.
Yeah, Tyler, remember Tyler Seville won a truck race here a couple years ago. So he's usually up front pretty quick at this Auto Club Speedway. But right behind them, Jimmy McKee in the number 8 machine holds down our 5th position, and just one more spot back behind there. You just never count them out. In that HPP Simulations number 55, Brian Yazik, one of our favorite drivers to talk to here on 3 Wide TV, is it's always entertaining when you talk to the Beard.
I was going to say, he's got a little bit of rear-end damage when the number 7 machine pulled off the racetrack when John Jenkins had that transmission trouble. Yazik took some evasive maneuvers, as did his teammate Michael Crow. Big wreck. We got a car around on the backstretch. No caution so far. That's the number 9 of Brandon Stokes going for a spin. Well off the racetrack. No caution. And we are still green here at Auto Club. There's the caution. Caution flag finally thrown. A little bit of contact there with the 02 machine, driven by Sam Crow. And wow, Brandon did everything he could to try and save that race car, but wasn't able to do so. Lucky for him, looks like no contact with the inside wall, so I think he will be okay. We'll have to double check and confirm whether or not this was indeed the reason for the caution, or if there was something else, because he was well off the racetrack and spinning through the infield. Came to a complete stop there on the inside. Good job for him. There's a couple of the Surf Pro cars. There's the 97 of Andy Veltman. Doesn't look like there was any further incidents throughout the field, so it does look like that is the reason for the caution. This will be very beneficial, however, for the number 36 of Ty Hester, who will get the lucky dog. John Jenkins in the number 7 back out there on the racetrack as well, currently being scored 1 lap down after his transmission trouble. But we'll have to see here, Jim, whether or not these drivers decide to head down pit road. Some of your race leaders now at the 1/3 race distance, almost exactly 33% of the way into this race. And here come your race leaders, led by the number 83 of Evans.
Yeah, this is where I would make my stop. I would have tried to get at least this far on the first run. You don't want to take those tires too soon. you want to make sure that you get them at the right time. The problem with taking them at lap 20 or 25 is I just think that that's a little bit too early if you try to space the race out. It is still 100 laps in distance, and trying to split that up, the remaining 80 laps is kind of a long run there with 40 laps each run that you would have to make on the set of tires. So I think split it up at 33 and maybe coming back in here at lap 66. I'm sorry, you get 2 tire changes during the race. So yeah, coming in at 33 and 66 makes the best sense. But remember, I always go back to that old saying, you want to be the first driver to make your last stop of the race. And especially with a track that's wearing tires out and an old surface like this one.
Absolutely. Although I thought it was very interesting to see that drivers like Mitch Brown on those fresher tires just didn't seem to be making their way through the field all too much. Now things are going to change here with this recent round of pit stops. There's the number 65 currently staying out there on the racetrack. That is the 65 driven by Travis McDaniel will be your race leader. There's Tony Schoen in the 33, as well as the 84 of Woody Mahan, all staying out under this pit sequence. In fact, those 3 cars have yet to pit in this 200-mile race, of course, brought to you by Kirkwood Transportation. Round 3 of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series for the American Sim Racing Series. And there is Adam Jersky coming down pit road. Remember, he was involved in an accident probably about 15-20. Oh, he overshot his pit stop. As I was saying, involved in an accident about 15-20 laps ago. There's Edward Bray in the 66, also been involved in a skirmish here tonight, trying to pace around the racetrack. Quite a few cars. And there is the number 43 machine. And Richard Fletcher driving that race car. Jim, he was the fastest in practice, but currently being scored down in the 28th position in that U.S. Air Force Ford Mustang. But so far, no scratches on that race car. Plenty of time yet for him to make his way up the field. But I was very impressed with the number 43 machine being top of the charts in practice. What about you?
Yeah, that was definitely one of those fast Fords, and not sure if that was a draft lap. He did not take a qualifying lap, so we didn't get to see what his. Obviously, it was a draft lap because most of the field was drafting, but didn't get to see what his car had speed-wise for qualifying, as he was one of those drivers that had to start at the rear of the field. So, nice fast number 43. You know, Richard will be solid and steady as the races go on, and he's right there at the end of the race just about every week with a decently clean car, and usually squeaks out a pretty good finish by doing so.
And, you know, one thing about Richard Fletcher, we saw this in the offseason, Jim, was that Richard wasn't all too sure whether or not he was going to be in the Cup Series in 2020, but he is here, and so far making all the starts this year. And I'll tell you what, there's been a lot of performance gain out of Richard Fletcher as well. I mean, him being fastest in practice is a testament to that. So very cool to see Richard in the Premier Series after he kind of thought he would be running a lot of these races this year. But pace car lights are off. We're going to go back to green flag racing here in just under a lap. Got to give a shout out once again to some of the people in the chat. Todd Kirkwood saying, let's go, KT boys, need to pick it up, 36, 41, and 99. Well, unfortunately, a couple of those cars so far receiving damage. Ty Hester involved in an accident, as has the number 41 machine of Tim Knott. And I think also the 99 of Clarence Bonner's also picked up a knock as well. So not the night that the Kirkwood Transportation cars have been hoping for just yet. Clarence Bono, though, the highest place of them, just outside the top 10 in the 11th position. AJ Digby saying, we've been under caution so much, why not keep it off? So let's just turn off the cautions. I guess that's in regards to the ticker. Cody Leland, Jim has transitioned better than Gordon or Earnhardt. Great job. So gotta say, you got some fans out there, Jim.
Well, definitely, and happy to have Cody Leland. He's one of my sponsors over on the truck side of things with American Regardless. Awesome apparel over there, and Cody and his family do a lot for our little esports racing. Anyways, pace car's off. Travis McDaniel, the leader. And we are back under the green flag at Auto Club Speedway with Tony Shoat in second and Woody Mahan in third.
So I think the big question here as we dive off into turn number 1 is just how long can these old tires on the 33, the number 84 and the 33 hold on for? Christopher Bouchard, he actually pitted 27 laps ago in the number 50 machine, and he's trying to get a good finish. Of course, he's still got his grandmother's face on the hood of that number 50 machine, and I gotta say, definitely rest in peace to his grandmother. He's kind of an awesome scheme to put his grandmother's face on the hood, as she has recently passed. But we got a side-by-side battle between Woody Mahan and Travis McDaniel right here up at the front, and that number 84 down there on the inside groove, not going below the apron just yet at this point in the run. But Woody Mahan was actually able to lead that lap by only a fraction of a second, 2/1000ths of a second.
I'll tell you what, don't look now, but Greg Evans is in the 10th position on the freshest tires out there. The fastest car with the freshest tires, and he's already up to 10th with that number 83. So the difference before with Mitch Brown was he was mired back around 20th and a lot of dirty air. Evans, on the other hand, is only at the back of the top 10 right now, so not as much dirty air and probably a lot more possibility to pass cars, and he's making a charge down on the inside. One thing about the apron here, they put a lot of paint down with the Auto Club branding and the Auto Club Speedway logo down there and all that. That apron can get very slick, and it's also really bumpy. I think it's second bumpiest only to Kentucky, and that's because Kentucky has a drain right in their apron area. But it's really weird because you go down there, you slip and slide a little bit, but it also has a couple bumps. And if you don't hit the transition back up onto the banking, the actual racing surface just right, you could find yourself in the inside that pit wall pretty quickly. So important to hit your marks even when you are cutting down on the apron here at Auto Club Speedway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As we see once again, the battle for the race lead isn't quieting down, because here comes David Washington in the 89 machine. Remember, he came down pit road not too long ago, didn't take tires, didn't take fuel, didn't take anything, but he's currently riding behind that number 65 machine trying to do battle. But let's see if we can go on board with Greg Evans in the number 83 machine. He's currently in the 9th position, but I'll tell you what, you're right, Jimmy. He's picking up spots left and right. He's trying to see if he can get around the 77 of Giese and the 11 of Tyler Seville. And keeping an eye on Seville, he pitted 7 laps ago with Greg Evans, so the 11 and the 83 both on the freshest tires out of your top 10 currently. Kelsey Rogers also in the number 34 trying to move forward on fresh tires, but whoa, looks like Evans possibly might have had to check up there just briefly behind Seville, getting a good tow here down the backstretch. You see those bumps just causing havoc on those race cars, kind of shoving them around, kind of like what you see at Daytona when they go through the center of the corner. But now that 83's got a really good run on the 77 at Giese. He's going to pull to the outside and move Greg Evans and Tyler Seville up into the 8th and 7th spots respectively.
And we're 3 wide right there with Kelsey Rogers, Alex Giese, and Cody Spiker in the 19. One thing about the Auto Club Speedway that doesn't get talked about a lot, they actually had talked about repaving this track. And right around the time that right before the Gen 6 car debuted, everybody, all the NASCAR fans says, no, please don't repave. The track has gotten great. The racing is great. There's multiple lanes for racing. And some of the drivers were complaining about those bumps. Some of them that had previous back injuries and had some back pain from racing here because it is so violent racing over those bumps. And so at one point, and there was a graphic out online. I'm not sure if the track issued it or if it was NASCAR or who issued it, but they had talked about repaving the track only on the straightaways and leaving the corners with the old worn-out pavement, which would be a really neat idea until you get to the transition from the old to the new and from the new to the old. So it's really just a neat thing about this track that they thought about doing. I don't know if that's still in play. I know they have had some weepers and some other issues with it, and that's kind of helped with the bumpiness and the bumps have really made this track have a lot of character. But man, this racing is awesome up front. all the way through the field, actually. I'm watching the 11 and the 19. They're bumper to bumper. It looks like Daytona and Talladega, or Daytona or Talladega there. And there are just cars trying just about every lane you can here, and there are a lot of lanes around the Auto Club Speedway.
There's a lot of lanes to pass in. Here we go a little bit further back. There's the number 24 machine, Alan Young, up on the high side trying to make some moves just inside the top 10 now. And actually, excuse me, just outside the top 10 in that 24 car. Tyler Seville in the number 11 starting to slide back just a little bit. Remember, he's on relatively new tires, but not able to use them to their full extent just yet. He's slid back to 10th. Kelsey Rogers now moving up into 9th, but we got to keep an eye on Greg Evans because he is now doing battle for what is the 5th position with Tony Schoen going around the outside in that number 83 Carolina Simworks Chevrolet. Look at that run he gets through the center of the corner there, Jim, closing right up on the back bumper of the number 50 of Christopher Bouchard.
Yeah, and Bouchard and Jake Douglas had a little bit of a moment down there in turn 1. The 49 went down in the corner, and I think the nose shoved a little bit more than he thought it was going to. Almost caught the 50 right in front of Greg Evans, and man, Greg Evans' heart rate's got to be up pretty high. Back to Tyler Seville for just a second. Tyler's one of the smartest drivers that you're going to see on the track. He doesn't make a lot of crazy moves. He's a very conservative driver when it comes to the way that he races. And he might just not like how bunched up everybody is and all the jockeying for position and zigging and zagging going on up front. And he might just say, not to steal the term from Joey Logano, but he might just say, okie dokie, I'm going to drop back here where it's a little bit more tame and not as crazy as it is up there in the top 5 or 6 cars, and just ride it out. Yeah, and again, usually you see Seville bring the car home in one piece, very little damage to the car, and rarely that you see him caught up in a wreck, and even more rare that you see him cause a wreck because he's such a conservative driver. He's a lot like Mark Martin. He'll give you the room, and he doesn't like getting the nose chopped off. He'll give you some room and race as hard as he can, but also knows when to back out of it. As the top 5 are now bunched up, you could probably throw a blanket. It'd have to be a very large blanket, but you could throw a blanket over those 5 cars.
Yeah, I mean, really, there's a 17-car breakaway, which is very impressive to see, and then it's quite a ways back to the 18th place driver. But do want to highlight one driver out there right now currently running in the 20th position. That would be Mitch Brown. And looks like Mitch has a little bit of front-end damage that he actually accumulated when we had that spin on the backstretch when the number 9 machine of Brandon Stokes ran around. Mitch Brown got a lot of damage, and he was one of those drivers I was expecting to see up there near the front, but this damage, it looks to be thwarting him quite a bit. As you can see, he's losing ground to Michael Krobach and the remainder of the 18-car breakaway that we have up in front of him. But let's go back up at the front because we've had the number 89 of Dave Washington take that car to the race lead, and Cody Spiker now following through for second. And look at this, 3 wide for third.
Hey, they call it 3 wide TV for a reason, and we're getting plenty of that here tonight in California. This has been pretty exciting racing, but the thing that I'm concerned about is the tire wear. Are these guys burning their tires off too early in the run here as we're just getting to the halfway point? Are they burning the tires off too much too soon? And what's going to happen in 10 laps from now or 12 laps from now, just before they come to pit road for those pit stops and get fresh tires? Are they going to be able to hold on to it, or are we going to see cars slipping and sliding around more as the time goes on? So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Also a very aero-sensitive track. We talked about Mitch Brown with that front-end damage. Talked about a couple drivers with damage, and also how the draft works here. But also, if you can get a little bit of clean air and get that nose to sniff some clean air, like we see the 33 of Tony Schoen doing back there at the back of the top 10, we might be able to make some runs towards the front. A lot of cars jumping out of line there, so maybe they're running a little warm.
Yeah, Dave Wilson down there in the number 61 machine dropping down to the inside of the racetrack, briefly 3 wide as they head off into turn number 3 and 4. He might have had to breathe the throttle there a little bit as he had the number 8 machine of Jimmy McKee come down right in front of him. But all of a sudden, a little bit more racy is the pack. And of course, once you get to the halfway mark, which we have now reached, things start to get a little bit more racy. And speaking of racy, here comes Kelsey Rogers in the number 34 machine, diving it to the inside of David Washington. He wants to get clean air on the front end of that race car. He is on 17.5 lap old race tires. In fact, he has the freshest tires in the field amongst everyone else around him, except for the number 83 machine of Greg Evans, who also has 17.5 lap old tires. As they now flash down the front stretch. And look at Cody Spiker in the number 19 machine. Good showing for him here tonight so far.
Watch that outside line. Evans pushing Washington. They get a run going into the corner. Getting really tight there. But what you're going to see, so Kelsey gets the run through the middle of the corner and might be able to clear the 89. But if he doesn't move up, the 89 car is going to pull right up on the outside. The 83 car is going to push him. I think that's the 19 car right there behind him. And they go right back to the lead. So now what you're seeing is the momentum of the outside line. They're able to go a little bit, keep the speed up a little bit faster around there, not have to be off the throttle as much. And they're able to hold on to it. Here goes Evans now down to the bottom. The other thing is that, like I mentioned earlier in the race, that air plays a role. If you come down, if you're way up high on entry and there's a guy down low and you come down the track towards him, it throws the air right at him as Greg Evans clears the 89 there for the lead in 1 and 2. Cody Spiker sits there in 3rd, and Kelsey Rogers back to the 4th position in his 34. So the air plays just about as much role as your on throttle time, your momentum, and they are banging doors going down into turn 3. Greg Evans up the track, hangs onto it though. Great job of driving there by Mr. Evans, who's 2nd on the all-time win list here at ASRS. We did that as our trivia question last week, so we won't talk about that one. We'll figure out what our trivia question is here tonight at Auto Club Speedway shortly.
I was just sorry to cut you off there, Jim, but we have seen a car on pit road. Woody Mahan in the 84 machine. He came down, I believe it was his first stop of the night in that 84 car. There he is coming back out onto the racetrack. He will now be scored 1 lap down, but he has made it to the halfway mark, but just barely. And think about all that caution that we had in the first half of this race. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not he's going to be able to make it the distance from here. I seriously doubt it, but might be able to. But I think really the pit window is going to be about 45 laps. That's kind of what I'm expecting. Maybe a little bit longer than that. So maybe Woody Mahan's pit window just opened up, and he decided to come down pit road, kind of like what you said, Jim. You want to be the first car on pit road to make it to the end type thing. Yeah, we'll have to see how that works out for that number 84 machine. But remember, it has been almost 55 laps since we started this race, and we currently have a couple of drivers up near the front, like Travis McDaniel, who have yet to pit. As I say that, Tony Schoen, he's one of those drivers. He's going to come down pit road, as it definitely looks like the pit road is open here for what might be some of these drivers' last pit stops if things stay green.
Absolutely. So we're going to go with our trivia question. The site that the Auto Club Speedway currently sits on was formerly occupied by a what? And bonus points if you give the proper name of the what. So we're gonna let that sit with chat there, and Peter will keep us updated as the race goes on if anybody gets it correctly. Just take a look around as you watch the race here on 3 Wide TV. You can kind of get a good idea of what was on this site just before it became the 2 Mile Auto Club Speedway. Looks like 66 and Edward Bray now on pit road and now off pit road.
Yeah, so the 33 machine, Tony Schoen, will get back out there on the racetrack 1 lap down. Here comes Michael Krobach in the number 72 HPPsimulations.com Ford Mustang to his pit box. As you once again see a side-by-side action for the race lead, it looks like David Washington and Greg Evans just kind of swapping this thing back and forth. And for now, the 83 of Greg Evans will put that Carolina Simworks Chevrolet back up to the front. Keep an eye on Kelsey Rogers there in the 4th position, though. He briefly led this race as the laps continue to wind down here in the 3rd Hacksaw PC's premier race of the season. The Kirkwood Transportation 200. Of course, we had the Kirkwood Transportation duels a couple of weeks back to kind of unofficially start the season, as we see the number 77 of Alex Giese headed into his pit box. There we go, back up to the front. And man, this action that has been going on at the front since we went back to green flag here, Jim, has been pretty intense, but it's kind of got that feel that we might be kind of in a green flag run.
Absolutely. Real quick, back to Todd Kirkwood and Kirkwood Transportation. I want to give a shout out to Todd for being our event sponsor here, and it'll also be the Kirkwood Transportation, I believe, 200 over at the Phoenix Raceway in 2 weeks when we're back in action. But just to get well soon to Todd. I know he's been a little bit under the weather and been wanting to get out and race here in the Premier Series, and some things kept him from doing that. But hopefully in the next week or so he'll be back on track and get him back doing well and out here racing with us before too long. Hopefully before we head off to Phoenix in 2 weeks.
Oh, man. I gotta say, I think we have a ding, 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 a winner in the chat right now there, Jim. But we'll wait till... Oh, we got the 99 of Clarence Bonner. Whoa, getting loose in that number 99 machine, the Kirkwood Transportation Toyota Camry. Let's see what happened here. Just getting on pit road, gets those brakes locked up just a little bit. Whoa, there it goes, right around. And coming to a halt just before that inside wall. So no damage done except in the track position department. As, oh, here comes Travis McDaniel coming down pit road. Like I said, he's one of those drivers yet to pit in this race. Got a couple of other drivers coming down with him. Jake Douglas in the 49 machine. We also got the number 50, Christopher Bouchard, coming down. And there's the number 51 machine of Mitch Brown on pit lane. So a lot of these drivers, I think, are electing to short pit just a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how those strategies play out as we have 40 laps to go. This is your lead pack currently, led by the number 83 of Greg Evans. There's your kind of second group right now. Troy Haight in that number 28 machine. He actually had the fastest lap of the race not too long ago. In fact, still does have the fastest lap of the race, 40.763. Brian Yazik doing battle with the number 8 machine of Jimmy McKee. And really interesting to see that number 8 machine. Jim, we saw a lot of good runs out of Jimmy McKee last year in the Premier Series side of things. Not yet able to pull one together this year, but so far looking pretty strong, keeping the fenders on that 8 car so far. And we'll see whether or not he's going to be able to get that car into the top 5 as this race continues on.
Yeah, that whole team with Kelsey Rogers, Cody Spiker, and Jimmy McKee, they're pretty good about keeping the fenders on their cars. When they wreck, when they're involved in a wreck, they have a really bad day, and it ends up being a 30th or 35th place finish. But when they don't wreck, and when they have a good day, they usually have a solid top 10, and that's what Jimmy needs in that number 8 car. So Peter, are you going to clue me in on who was our lucky guesser here about the Auto Club Speedway trivia?
Cody Leland says the Kaiser Steel Mill.
He looked that up. He looked that one up. I'm sure he probably Wikipedia'd that one, because that's where I got my info as we roll along.
Well, I got to say, regardless of whether or not that American looked that up, he is the winner. So, you see
a great time. There. Yes, and a great time to remember everyone deployed. That's a really cool shirt that they have over there at the American Regardless store. Red, the initials of that, remember everyone deployed. And, of course, it's a red T-shirt. Really awesome looking wear. I love wearing mine. Get a lot of compliments when I'm out and about in town wearing it, and people really like that. AmericanRegardless.com for all those great wares that they have over there with the Leland family. And, again, thanks to Cody. Happens to be my personal sponsor over on the Truck Series. A couple race sponsorships over here with the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, and just really happy to have Cody on board with us.
Oh, we got a
pretty good iRacer.
Sorry to cut you off. We got a couple of cars on pit road. That's the Surf Pro drivers, both David Washington and Eric Stanford, pulling out of that lead group. Both of them coming on pit road. And remember, they had such a good pit road entry in the Kirkwood Transportation duel that we had, that they were able to leapfrog the entire field, and those Surf Pro cars actually won the first of the duels. And so we'll have to see whether or not this will pan out for them. Remember, they have the last 2 pit stalls at the end of pit road. There they go, hitting those boxes. Very difficult to get into your boxes here. They're very large and very easy to misjudge your location. But they're kind of your first of that lead group after Travis McDaniel to come down pit road. So we'll have to see whether or not this brings more cars down pit road. It does indeed. Cody Spiker leads them down. Kelsey Rogers coming in behind him. Jimmy McKee, Troy Haight, Tyler Seville, Richard Stallings, all on pit road right now, all trying to get to those pit boxes, making sure they don't slide through. Jimmy McKee hitting his pit box nice and neatly. So when will these two, when will your race leader, the 83, head down pit road? Woody Mahan there in the 84 has already come down pit road. He's trying to unlap himself in that car.
Yeah, those Surf Pro cars made those pit stops. They're back. They're already back on the track. They only lost a lap and a little bit. I mean, it's like those pit stops never even happened. I mean, that is just an incredible set of pit stops for 2 drivers, 2 cars, 2 pit crews, 2 everything, and they have a almost a perfect pit stop there. So great to see the Surf Pro cars. Brian Yazek up to the 2nd position in the HPP number 55. As he's right behind Greg Evans. We'll have to see how long he's been on the track. Looks like the same amount as Greg Evans, 34 laps since those pit stops. And we'll have to see how long it takes for those drivers. 83 sounds like he's coming to pit road. Just heard it over the radio. So we'll see if the 55 follows or if Brian Yazek hopes and prays for a caution flag here as the race enters the final third.
And here comes your race leader, the number 84, Greg Evans, on pit road right now, all by himself. He hasn't had any drafting partners for the last couple of laps, but does a good job getting down to the pit road speed of 55 miles an hour. A couple of cars still staying out there on the racetrack will cycle to the race lead, including Brian Yazek, Brandon Stokes, and David Wilson. But Evans will be coming down to his pit box. You see all these race cars out there on the racetrack, and it's absolutely brutal to go 55 miles an hour down pit road, as some of these drivers are going upwards of 180 miles an hour going off into turn number 1. Pretty fast racetrack, Auto Club Speedway.
Almost a second a lap difference between what Greg Evans was running at the end of his run and what the 2 Surf Pro cars were running once they came out of the pits. So I look for a couple second difference there, and we're going to have to see just where Evans shakes out.
Let's see how
coming up into the track.
Yeah, let's see how this pans out, because he's still on the pit road, and those Surf Pro cars are going to just absolutely blow by the number 83 Evans, and Evans still trying to get up to speed. He's finally going to get up to speed here in turn number 3 and 4, but it does look like the Surf Pro cars will cycle out in front, at least for now. Brian Yazek in the 55 staying out in the racetrack for now, trying to hold on to the race lead in the HPPsimulation.com And look at this gaggle of cars right behind him. Look at this, Michael Krobach in the 12th position. He's already come down pit road once. Everyone trying to get around Yazek on older tires. Whoa, look at the 89 of Washington, kind of getting boxed in here by the 2 HPP simulation machines. You got Michael.
This is just going to benefit Evans. This is just going to play right into Greg Evans' hand. He doesn't have to deal with this right away. He's going to catch right back up to the back of the pack, catch the back of the Surf Pro cars, the 89. The 55 still has not pitted. He's on much older tires as they got to try to fight through this. Now the 55 looks like he has been pushed up out of the way, pulls down the track, and lets everybody, not lets them go, but they go by as he regains his bearings here tonight.
And what about Travis McDaniel? He's already come down pit road. Remember, he was really one of the first cars on pit road because he hadn't pitted at all before making his first pit stop of the night. That's usually how your first pit stop of the night goes. But Travis McDaniel currently has about 2 or 3 seconds on the main group, which is currently being led by the 85 of Eric Stanford. So if all the cars in front of McDaniel were to pit right now, it looks like he would inherit the lead, which would kind of cycle the pit stops. But he is on older tires, currently running, in fact, on 10-lap older tires. Woody Mahan on 18.5 lap older tires. Eric Stanford, of course, now on 6.5 older tires. And now we see Brian Yazik has relinquished the race lead and come down pit road and
Slow exit.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
He missed his pit box. He was stopped in another car's pit box.
Oh, that's not good for Yazik, and I don't often see Yazik make those mistakes. I mean, Yazik's one of those race car drivers who just doesn't make those small mistakes, and this is going to cost him dearly here. He was already on kind of an alternate strategy, and yeah, he just completely missed his pit box, couldn't get that 55 machine into gear, possibly stalled it on pit road, had to refire it, and he's just going to lose an absolute ton of time. In fact, looking at his pit road time in that 55 machine, it was 1 minute and 1 second, Jim. And that is about 15 seconds longer than a lot of the other cars out there on the racetrack. I mean, that is just a heartbreak. 15 or 16 seconds on pit road longer than everyone else. You just cannot have that to get to victory lane. But as I say that, caution is out.
Oh, no.
That could change
everything.
And it's one of the drivers we've seen do so well tonight, the 89 machine of David Washington, getting involved there with possibly the number 34 machine, was it? Kelsey Rogers, a little bit of a door check, perhaps? We have to see if we can see what happened there on the 3Y TV replay. What happened here, Jim? This is the 34 goes up the racetrack, and yeah, just coming together.
That tightness coming out of turn 4, the 89 goes around, doesn't hit the wall. I think he might have just snagged the 34. The only damage that he's going to have, from what I can see, is just the tires. And I believe that's his last set of tires that he put on the car. So I don't look for him to be like way up front, but I also don't think he's going to suffer too far at the back. He's just got to be really careful if he comes down pit road, if there's minor damage and he repairs it. That he doesn't take tires, since I believe they're out of tires currently. Man, I wanted to see it go green. I was really excited to see what was going to come of those cars that had stayed out, the alternate strategies and everything we had going on there. And now we throw it all out the window and start over again, kind of like we did with the design of Michigan when we made a few or our notebook for Michigan with the couple changes that they made out here and how different these two tracks are. Looks like they just kind of ran out of room. The 34 doesn't quite go all the way up. I think Washington thought that Kelsey Rogers would go all the way up the track there. There was about a 3/4 of a lane. I think he probably just expected the 34 to move up, and he didn't. And they just kind of met and around went the 89.
Yeah, so it looks like Dave Washington will unfortunately receive the end of longest line penalty for that accident. But like you said, Jim, this changes everything. We do have a lot of cars stuck one lap down, including David Washington in that number 89 machine. So he will slide all the way back to the 36th position, which is a heartbreak for how well he has been running tonight in that Serve Pro machine. Not what he wanted to have happened. I'm sure Brian Yazik, remember he was just on pit road. He's also going to be stuck one lap down. There will be 28 cars, it does appear, who will be scored on the lead lap, although that is kind of subject to see whether or not we get some wave around cars or not. Brandon Stokes in the number 9 machine was your race leader, but he has come down and pitted. James Lorello, Andy Veltman, Travis McDaniel, Eric Stanford, Cody Spiker, Jake Douglas. Looks like they've all possibly come down pit road as well.
Yeah, timing and scoring is all over the place right now because of the cars that had stayed out, the cars that were still on the track. It looks like, well, there's the 12 car going down pit road.
I think Travis McDaniel is going to be scored as your race leader.
And yes, and he's on 15 lap old tires. Then Eric Stanford on 11 lap old tires, Cody Spiker on 10 lap tires, and Jake Douglas on 15 lap tires are all ahead of those guys that we mentioned earlier. Kelsey Rogers with 11 lap old tires, as well as Greg Evans in the 83. I almost forgot his name. I better not, because he's catching me on this wins list. I got to remember that guy's name.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't let someone else creep up on your wins record there, Jim. But I'll tell you what, we're going to have to keep an eye on Brandon Stokes in the number 9 machine. Remember, he's got a lot of damage in that number 9 car, but he does have fresh tires, and he will be restarting in 12th. The front 11 cars did not pit. John Jenkins in the number 7 machine, got to give a shout out to that guy. Remember, he had that freak transmission issue, and he was able to stay out and get back on the lead lap because of it. So good run for him to get back on the lead lap, kind of the hard way, so to speak, not able to use a lucky dog to do so. He is currently being scored in 13th. It'll be interesting to see exactly how this all plays out as this race continues on. In fact, Jenkins looks like he's being scored 13th currently, but like I said, or like you said, Jim, live timing and scoring kind of all over the place right now, so we probably won't figure out how everything will sort out until they cross the start-finish line once the green flag drops back once again. But we're down to only 25 laps to go, only 50 miles here in the Kirkwood Transportation 200, the third Hacksaw PC's Premier Series race of the season for the American Sim Racing Series. And that man right there, Kelsey Rogers, trying to get to victory lane. And we saw so many good runs out of Kelsey Rogers last season, Jim, but just that little bit to get to victory lane, not quite so often.
Yeah, and he has really stepped up his game. He won the championship in what is now the Surf Pro Grand National Series on Wednesday nights as part of the development series last fall. So he picked that up. A ton of wave around cars that are going to bring just about all those names that we'd mentioned that might have been out of this, including Brian Yazik, Ty Hester, Sam Crow, Jared Haggerty. They're all back in the game. They're all going to be at the tail of the lead lap here whenever we take the green flag. In just about a mile. But I'll tell you what, the strategy and everything that we saw there was gone in 60 seconds when that caution came out. See, we just keep going with these. I think I'm out of movie references, though.
Yeah, you're definitely getting close to exhausting all the racing movie references, or at least with some form of racing references, but nonetheless, it keeps things entertaining here for 3 Wide TV, folks. Nicky Borsler in the chat saying, let's go number 11. Of course, rooting on the number 11 of Tyler Seville, who finds himself mired back in the 19th position, but he elected to come down pit road under this caution, so we'll see exactly what Tyler can do here as the green flag is back in the air. The flag man whipping that green flag around as fast as he can.
Andy Feldman with a slow restart there. He dropped back just as the field accelerated. The 97 car dropped back. I don't know if that was the old okie dokie or not, but looks like maybe he's just lacking a little bit of acceleration there with that car. As the action back around 15th.
Veltman! Veltman in the 97, action continues for him. He just smacked the wall coming out of turn number 2. You can see him getting freight trained by a couple of cars as they enter turn number 3 and 4, right in the middle of a multi-car sandwich. And look at this. This just continues. There goes the number 66. Edward Bray trying to go around the outside, unable to do anything just yet. He's going to have to slot back in. But back up the front, things picking up. 22 laps to go, around this 2-mile D-shaped oval. And Travis McDaniel, remember, slightly older tires than a lot of these cars around him, still holding them off with clean air on the nose of that Toyota Camry.
It is fast and furious in the top 10 right now with McDaniel and is that Stanford in the 85 there? All those Surf Pro cars are exactly the same. I wish they would reverse a few of the paint schemes there, but I believe that Stanford in the 85 is now there side by side. Evans right there behind in third on the outside. And Mitch Brown is flat flying around the Auto Club Speedway all the way up to the 9th position now for the Patriot Marketing number 51 Toyota.
Yeah, remember, we pretty much had written that machine off. Whoa, do I see Alex Giese getting sideways in the 77 machine? It looked like it briefly. Possibly a little bit of connection issues as well. In fact, getting word that Alex Giese in the 77 machine has been black flagged for connection issues here. And that is a tough break. He was inside the top 10, is still inside the top 10, and will have to come down pit road here and serve the black flag penalty. As there you see the 34 of Kelsey Rogers trying to go down there below the apron. Not seeing the apron used all too much here tonight. Kind of surprising. It doesn't give you that much, though, unlike last week at Vegas, where it'll give you, a couple hundredths. Here at California, not quite so much, especially when the draft is so important.
Yeah, and we're within 20 to go, so time to go through our Hacksaw PCs 20 to go. Hacksaw PCs, professional-built racing computers, actually professional-built computers at an affordable price. Visit hacksawpcs.com for more information. Man, I'm going to go with Greg Evans. I'm sticking with the 83. I think he's going to win the race. How about you, Peter?
Oh, man, I would really say that the number 83 has a good shot. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I think that number 83 has kind of been biding his time here tonight and been picking up spots here and there. But I want to go with someone that we haven't talked about all too much tonight, and that's the man running in the 5th position right now, Troy Haight, the P&E Enterprises Chevy Camaro. We haven't talked about him all too much, and boom, top 5 for him with 19 laps to go, slowly but surely working his way in on this top 4 as they continue to do battle. Looks like the number 83 of Greg Evans will lead this lap, but so far so good for Troy Haight. We've just kind of seen over probably the last 5 to 10 American Sim Racing Series, Troy Haight just seems to end up with a little bit of damage that just puts that number 28 machine off the pace. But here tonight, showing what he is capable of and trying to get home a victory in that machine. So good run for him as we're side by side once again for the race lead.
Yeah, they have been swapping it back and forth multiple times per lap. We're lucky that lead changes are only counted at the start-finish line, or we'd have a long list of them here tonight. Back to Troy Haight. I believe that's the only War Turtle racing machine that made the field here tonight at Auto Club Speedway. But a shout-out to Jay Crable, all the great sponsors of War Turtle Racing, including Glassdoor Brewing, who just stepped up and sponsored another 3 races. And then Jay over at War Turtle Racing jumped in and became the title sponsor of our Sonoma race in June, I believe that is. So I want to thank them for all their support, and hated to see Jay go home tonight a little early, but I'm sure he's watching here on 3 Wide TV and enjoying the show, especially with his car sitting in 5th right now.
Yeah, speaking of the chat, want to give a shout out to Stephen Durham saying, "Let's go, Eric." And of course, we got Mark Cohn saying, "No, Yaz." I guess trying to cheer on Brian Yazek. Yazek currently down in 22nd position. Stu Lane saying, "Let's go, number 65." Of course, driven by Travis McDaniel, who is currently being scored in the 4th position as we go on board with that number 65 machine coming out of turn number 2. Watching the back end currently of the 34 of Kelsey Rogers, trying to get to victory lane in that fairly bare paint scheme. If you're watching this right now and you want to put your name on a race car in the American Sim Racing Series, that is one of the best drivers to do it on, because Kelsey Rogers is always on the broadcast here on 3 Wide TV, always trying to get up near the front, trying to go possibly 3 wide there through the middle. Man, wouldn't that be great to have your logo on the hood of that car going 3 wide as we go through turn number 1 and 2 once again. And looks like the race lead has swapped again as Eric Stanford, 3/1000ths of a second. He led that last lap. And let's keep an eye on some of those drivers with the fresher tires. Currently, Woody Mahan, currently being scored at 8th. He has 11 laps on his Goodyear Eagles, compared to your race leader, Greg Evans, who has 19 laps on his Goodyear Eagles. So about 7 or 8 laps between those 2 race cars. And, of course, some of those laps on the number 84, Woody Mahan, were running with caution, so that's going to help him out. And here comes Kelsey Rogers for the race lead as things continue to shuffle up the front, and can't count out Travis McDaniel in that number 65.
Don't forget, Kelsey Rogers battled for the championship last year in the Cup Series. So he is no stranger to running up front in these races. And it would not surprise me to see him pick up a Premier Series win here, especially at Auto Club. He's really good at these fast tracks. He's good at some of the flatter tracks, and you kind of combine it all, and you get this 2-mile gem out in California. But, man, this is really exciting. I don't know if we've had the same leader 2 laps in a row the last 10 laps.
Yep, this time by, it is the number 83 of Greg Evans' lead at this stripe, but Kelsey Rogers just trying to pull his nose out front. Man, a lot of dirt and grime build up on the front end of the number 34 of Kelsey Rogers as we close in on the 200-mile distance in the Kirkwood Transportation 200. Grant Brown saying the excitement is reaching its peak. It really is. I mean, my oh my, these drivers really closing in right at the finish. Man, they're not letting anything go right now. They're giving it every. Oh, we got a car down to number 9. I think that's Stokes getting onto pit road. That's the fastest pit road entry we'll see all day. But unfortunately for the number 9 of Stokes, he still stopped at the end of pit road. We'll see what happened here on 3Y TV replay, but I think he just caught the wall like we've seen a couple times tonight, Jim. We saw that for the first accident. There he goes on pit road. Looks like he didn't make any contact with the inside wall, so that's good news. Problem is he's going to need another caution to catch back up with the field.
He just did that just to pick up a Big Mac and fries. That's all he wanted.
Man, I wish that's all it took to pick up a Big Mac and fries, but there you go. You saw that little bit of contact with the outside wall upset that number 9 machine, and that half spin onto pit road. Hopefully he doesn't have a speeding penalty on top of that, but you see he's in his pit box right now, so that is not what he wanted to have happen. We currently have 31 cars on the lead lap. Last car on the lead lap would be John Broussard, and right behind him, Christopher Bouchard. Those two cars started together, 26th and 27th, and they now run 31st and 32nd. The only difference between them is now the 53 is on the lead lap of the 50. Oh,
we got
as
one
I
around.
say that, the 50 made contact and heavy contact with, I think, David Washington, and Washington is absolutely toast, and that was a fantastic run that David Washington had going for him a little bit earlier on. And just as I was mentioning the number 50 of Bouchard, there's that little bit of contact, possibly a little bit of net coat there, Jim, and ouchies. That number 89 also got tagged by the Kirkwood Transportation number 99 of Clarence Bonner, and we are under caution for what will be a very exciting shootout here in just a few laps.
Yes, and nobody that I know of has tires on pit road, so this is going to be the battle of getting the restart, the wheel spin, everything under control, and just having the best few laps of your career. Man, Bonner's car, that kind of has shades of Carl Edwards back in the day when he was sponsored by the Duck Insurance Company, and I just wonder if that one is covered as part of that supplemental insurance that the Duck offers.
Yeah, I mean, man, you see that in slow motion here on 3Y TV. It definitely looks like a little bit of net code between those two cars leading to that accident, which is an absolute shame if that is the case. With the 89 in that Surf Pro car, of course, started this race on the pole. We are seeing a couple of cars, though, headed down pit road. And we will see whether or not they take tires. Travis McDaniel, one of those cars, he was up near the front. In fact, he's the first car to head down pit road, and the right side's going up here, Jim. Looks like he might have saved a set of tires. Mitch Brown saving a set of tires. Jason Stewart on pit road as well, getting tires. But we have seen just how important track positions here tonight. And a lot of these drivers coming down pit road, they are in the few. A lot of drivers electing to stay out.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had tires. That's what really surprises me. We just saw the 51 put tires on, and I don't think that they had tires. So we're going to have to get the word from race control. And they probably won't let us know that during the race. They'll probably let us know that tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to wait and see, because I'm pretty sure he used his tires up a little bit earlier. But I could be wrong. I didn't watch his pit stops earlier, so I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know about Travis McDaniel. You have to remember that McDaniel, he, of course, pitted around the halfway mark in that number 65 machine because he stayed out for the first 55 laps. So I believe this was only his second pit stop, and I'll have to see, yes, according to my live timing and scoring, it was only his second stop of the night. So Travis McDaniel was in the clear for sure. So he's now on his third set of tires. Remember, it's 3 sets of tires, but the set of tires that you start on counts. So you can only change tires twice in an event. And so Travis McDaniel he's definitely in the clear with only his second pit stop. But yeah, definitely kind of questioning whether or not the other drivers have, because drivers like the 51 and Mitch Brown, he's been on pit road 4 times. Jason Stewart 5 times. Jersky, Veltman, Broussard 5 or 6 times. Broussard has been on pit road 8 times. So it's going to be interesting to see how race control counts that tomorrow when they go back and rewatch the tape and confirm who's done what on tires. But for Travis McDaniel, we do know he is good. Thumbs up for the number 65. But bad news for him, he's currently 23rd on the racetrack, which is way back. Remember, he's going to have all that dirty air, and we've mentioned it a couple times here tonight, Jim. The clean air is king at this racetrack.
Yeah, I'm looking at the timing and scoring there on the 51. I don't know if he did take tires earlier. He very well may not have, but yeah, clean air. But this restart is going to be about not spinning the tires, getting a run. And remember, the restart rules have come down very hard on these drivers to not try to anticipate and to not try to get a run on the restart, to try to somewhat control those restarts. Man, I don't know. There's a lot of things ahead for these drivers, especially the ones up front, like Greg Evans, Kelsey Rogers, Eric Stanford, Woody Mahan. Those guys, especially Evans, Rogers, and Stanford, as they're on 27, 29, and 30-lap tires, respectively. Mahan is on 20-lap tires, so he's got 7-lap fresher tires than Evans, and 10-lap fresher tires than Stanford. So very interesting there. He's the highest guy that has those fresher tires. Tony Schoen in 7th is the next driver that has that. So very interesting to see how that's going to come into play. But really, the wheel spin is a big deal. Don't know how much of a big deal it is going to be with this package, because we don't have all the horsepower. We're kind of restricted down a little bit, but really could be a factor here in deciding who wins this race.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's always fun. I gotta say, this new rule that we have introduced this year for the Premier Series and having the different tire strategies, this makes things that much more interesting. You can only change your tires twice. You only have 3 sets, including the one you start with. All in all, man, this has been a fantastic addition to this series, and it's been a lot of fun. It almost led to the 51 winning last week at Vegas. It's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on for this restart, because I'm sure the number 65, Travis McDaniel, will be trying to come from the 23rd position to get the checkered flag, but he doesn't have many laps to do it. As you can see, the pace car diving now onto pit road, racing the hands of the number 83, and he's already on the loud pedal, green flag back in the air, and he has jumped out to a huge lead. But I'll tell you what, does he have too big of a lead there, Jim?
No, I don't think so. Fast and Furious restart there for the 83. All he's got to do now is block down to the bottom. The biggest competition for him is going to be that 84 car with the 7-lap fresher tires. If the 84 car can clear the 34 and the 85 car and get into second place in the next lap or so. If not, I think the 83, and we're back to caution. So now we're going to head that over.
I saw a car flipping near the back. I think it might have been the Holco Intercon number 12 machine, unfortunately, of Steve Buhala, who might have gone up and over. Let's see what happened here. Ooh. Oh, the number 65, Travis McDaniel, got loose on those fresh tires, and he was the one who went up and over. And that is a tough break for him. He was trying to work his way through the field, maybe trying to do a little bit too soon. And we will have overtime here, maybe getting a little bit on the apron there, Jim. It just broke loose from him.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. That was a pretty wild one to watch. Oh, wow, we got the gyro cam for it. Lucky we put that in there. Carlos finally spending some of the millions of dollars that he makes broadcasting sim racing. You know, these leagues make tons of money every year, and I'm sure the broadcasters as well. That was a sarcasm thing there, but no, really cool to see that from the gyro cam, and just not really sure what happened. The track can't be slick because everybody made it through there without really slipping and sliding. You just got to wonder if maybe he just kind of went in at a bad angle, had cars at the wrong place on him, and just got loose and just came around. That was an interesting one to watch for sure.
Well, I'd like to see if we could go on board with the number 65 from the angle that we're looking at right now. Because, oof, man, that was a hard hit. I think that was Bouchard, maybe. Or Broussard, excuse me, in the 53. Okay, on board. Let's see this. In kind of slow motion. You see, I think right there, he hit the apron a little bit, and that just upset that race car. And he kind of was trying to save it, and all of a sudden it just snapped on him. So it looks like he just clipped that apron just a smidgen, and that's what led to it. Here we go from high above. Look right there. You just kind of saw that white line disappear, and he got really close with the 51 of Mitch Brown. Might have taken the air off the spoiler of that race car. But in the end, very tough break for another driver who had a very good run going here tonight.
Yeah, not often that you see a car get upside down, really away from Daytona and Talladega. Obviously, with iRacing, you have it at a few more of these tracks, but just an odd way to roll over, and that was an odd one all the way around. Just a strange crash and a strange set of circumstances. Real quick, while we're looking here at the top part of the field, 6th place, Alan Young. Quiet day. Haven't talked too much about the number 24, the New Hampshire driver, as he has made his way up to the front of the field nice and quietly. Car looks relatively clean. We'll use that term clean because, well, it's filthy dirty with road grime from the track, but the car doesn't look to have any dents or anything on it. And, a nice run there by Alan Young. We'll see if he can finish the deal off up inside the top 10 currently. Maybe pick up a few more spots.
We got some people in the chat, of course, giving really their condolences to that number 65 machine, of course, saying it's such a good day for Travis McDaniel, but unfortunately not going to end the way he wanted to. Jay Crable, on the other hand, says, is that a challenge, Jim? I bet I could flip anywhere. So we'll have to see whether or not that War Turtle machine can get thrown up on its turtle shell somewhere else.
Well, I know the perfect place he can do it would be on the Turtles at the Roval.
Ooh, that's a good one. War Turtle tackling the Turtles. Say that one 5 times fast. Also got to say, Ronnie Smith saying fly crow fly. Rooting on the number 83 machine. No Mercy saying F to pay respects. So definitely having a good group of people in the chat here tonight. Grant Brown saying Jim's got jokes. Of course, it's great to have you up here in the booth here, Jim.
Oh, I have all kinds of jokes. Absolutely. You know, man, I could go all day long with them. But you know, at one point in my life, I was studying to be a doctor, but I have no patience. That kind of went away.
Oh boy, Carlos, I think we might have to fire Jim, but we can't fire Jim because he runs the league. So you know, whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like the owner's son working at your work, doing you know part of your job, but making way more money than you, right?
That's exactly right. But pace car lights are about to go off. In fact, they have gone off. They're on that Ford Mustang pace car. We're going to have our first of 3 attempts at the green-white checker here at Auto Club Speedway and see who gets to the checkered flag first in the Kirkwood Transportation 200. We only made it about, not even a half a lap that last time, so hopefully we can this time. All of a sudden, it's looking better and better for that number 83, and we'll have to see whether or not Greg Evans can get away to the kind of restart he did last time, Jim. I mean, he jumped out to about a 3-car length lead over the cars behind him, and what can possibly Kelsey Rogers do from that outside groove on this restart? It's going to be fun to see. They only have 2 laps to decide who will be the Kirkwood Transportation 200 winner, unless we go to the second attempt at a green-white checker here in just a minute.
You know, this race kind of reminds me about a book I was reading about anti-gravity. It was impossible to put down. I don't know, man. Kelsey Rogers on the outside, all he's really got to do is try to break the momentum of the 83. But the 83 controls the restart. 83 is probably going to get a little bit of a lead, and we'll see how it all plays out here shortly.
Getting a question in the chat about the number 50. The number 50 did not claim contact. It looks like I think David Washington claimed that contact, so that's why the 50 is still in the race. But the green flag is back in the air. We'll find out who will win the Kirkwood Transportation 200. And once again, the 83 Greg Evans off to a fantastic restart. Kelsey Rogers getting a little bit of help from the number 84 Woody Mahan. Mahan trying to push that number 34 up to the front. We'll have to see what happens here. It looks like Greg Evans might have got too big of a jump here as the second and third place car is starting to close in. Really tight there between the 85 of Stanford and the 34 Rogers coming off at turn number 2. Here comes Rogers. He's going to pull a slide job down to the inside groove, trying to get a little bit of help from the 85 of Stanford side by side for the race lead, but he has to roll out of the throttle because he pushes in the middle of the corners. Evans pushing up out of the corner. Here
comes Alan Young, 3 wide on the bottom and makes the pass for third.
What
2 for 1 out of turn 4.
Wow. I really thought that those 2 cars up the front were getting tight, might wash up into the outside wall, but it was the 2 cars, the 85 and the 84, who got tight, but we're still side by side for the race lead coming down to turn number 2. We won't have another caution, no more green-white checkers, and Greg Evans pulls his nose out front, clears the number 34, just 2 more corners here at Auto Club.
You know Kelsey Rogers is going to do everything he can, but I don't know if there's anything that he can do from where he's at. He just lacks that little bit, but here he comes with a run out of turn at number 4, drops to the bottom, and not going to happen. Greg Evans going to pick up the win. It's just a little bit closer to me on that all-time win list. Hate to rub that in, Greg, but congratulations on the win there for the number 83 Carolina Simworks Chevrolet Camaro ZL1.
Well, Jim, you called it. You picked tonight's winning driver.
Wait, does that count as a win for me then? Can I add another one? Oh.
No, it doesn't count. Sorry.
Oh.
That's not how it works. I mean, I guess you kind of make the rules, so maybe it does count. But
yeah, well, you know, our rules are published on our website. They're available at www.americansimracing.com. Click on driver resources and drop down to the rule book.
All right, so quickly run to the website, change it so everyone can go look and actually see it.
We don't do that kind of stuff. One thing I want to do a little bit of housekeeping on a couple of things there. So they were asking in the chat why the number 50 car did not go to the rear, but the 89 car did. The calls in this series are made by the race control on the fly. So Sam Maxwell over there in race control tonight making the calls. Does a great job on making the calls. I'm sure he would be the first one to say that, he's decently good or pretty good at making the right calls every time. Occasionally he might miss one. Not saying that's what happened there, but he does a really good job with those. And we're going to watch the 83 car roll into victory lane. Fuzzy's victory lane here, the 19th hole at the Auto Club Speedway. So Greg Evans, your winner here in the Carolina Simworks Chevrolet. But Sam does a great job over there as our race director for the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. And of course, everything with the rulings on the track, there's a whole process that the drivers can go through if they don't agree with it. With a protest that they can protest penalty, or they can protest other drivers, and then once penalties are issued, they can also appeal those. So, and they have a couple steps in the appeals process as well. So all that stuff available to our drivers, as they have all kinds of resources to ensure that they're getting the fair shake here and give them the best racing environment that we can here. With the iRacing simulation.
Yeah, and there was a couple of appeals that were made last week here in the American Sim Racing Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, and some of them were upheld, but not all of them were. Some appeals were successful, so those drivers are, of course, encouraged to make those appeals. But why don't we step away here for just a brief moment, play some commercials from our wonderful sponsors here for the American Sim Racing Series, and we'll come back with some interviews for your top 3 here tonight, including the 24 of Alan Young, Kelsey Rogers, and your race winner, Greg Evans.
Every day in business starts with a number. Output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers. Because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow or even stop. Unless you know this one. 1-800-SERVPRO. The #1 choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Auto Club Speedway, where we have concluded tonight's Kirkwood Transportation 200, but we do have interviews with your top 3 finishers here lined up for you, and I believe Mr. Jim Foose is caught up with your 3rd place finisher tonight. Very quiet night for the number 24 of Alan Young. Jim, take it away, Jim.
Man, Alan, I know you're a big Jeff Gordon fan, but you looked like Kevin Harvick out there tonight. We didn't hear from you. We didn't see your car very much early on. And right at the end, there's that number 24 car closing the deal, lurking right behind the battle for the lead, and just coming up just a bit short here of picking up the victory. So how does that one feel, Alan? And tell us a little bit about your night.
That came as a surprise. It feels really good, especially after the start of the season I've had, where Daytona didn't go well, and then Las Vegas I had internet issues. But the start of that race, I got spun out there in that lap 1 caution, and I didn't know how it was going to go, and I just kind of bided my time, and boy, that thing was a rocket ship at the end.
Yeah, your number 24 car usually is pretty fast here at Auto Club. I remember a race a few years ago where you were ahead of me for most of the race and ended up getting taken out with just a couple laps to go. I think we were in the Surf Pro Grand National car back then, but you were up there all night long and fought everybody off. Tonight, kind of the opposite, all the way, like I said, from the back to the front, and did it a couple times there. Your LA Sim Sport team had a decent run here tonight. I think Edward came somewhere around there. I saw his name pop up on the running order a short time ago, but yeah, just an overall good run there. And any shout outs that you have here tonight with your number 24?
Yeah, I just gotta thank the guys at LA Sim Sport, John, Lee, Ed. We've been working real hard to try to step up our game. So far, so good. My brother, who is the owner of Young Guns Creation, it's nice to put a good run for him. Just everyone who came out and watched.
Yeah, the Auto Club Speedway has multiple grooves to it. I think at one point during the broadcast we counted like 5 different grooves on it. How did you utilize those? And did you have one that you liked more than the others, or was it just kind of going where the other guys weren't, trying to get a little bit of clean air on the nose to keep the car going in a decent direction?
Beginning of the run, I liked the bottom of 1 and 2 and kind of the bottom of 3 and 4. But as the run went on and the tires got wore, I went to the kind of middle groove in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I didn't take tires till I think lap 63, so I had to really go where everyone wasn't and where the car would actually grip.
Yeah, and the new tire rule came into play. I think everybody was a little bit short on tires from what they normally would like to have. How did that play into your strategy how do you maximize your tires, and what goes into the thinking there to finally take the pit stop, take the tires, and make that change when you're so limited on the amount that you have?
As example, tonight was only 100 laps, so it's kind of relatively short. So I figured if I took a set around halfway, a little after, then cautions breed caution towards the end usually. So I figured if I had one set left, I might be able to utilize it, and it played out. I was just kind of hoping them two guys would stay side by side ahead.
Absolutely. Well, Alan, it was a great run. Like I said, we didn't talk about you too much there right until the end of the race. You kind of snuck up on us. Probably took a lot of guys by surprise there with your number 24, and really happy for you. Hopefully 2 weeks from now, we'll see you over at Phoenix Raceway as that becomes the championship race this year. So really an important race for you and your team as you head forward into the season. So good luck at Phoenix in 2 weeks, and enjoy the week off.
Thanks. Hopefully that first win is right around the corner.
All right. Well, that is your third place finisher tonight, driver of the number 24 machine, Alan Young. But I have headed down to catch up with the second place finisher tonight, the number 35 of Kelsey Rogers. And joining me right here is Kelsey. And boy, oh boy, you came so close once again to getting to victory lane here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series tonight. Kelsey led one lap, but at the end, it was just so exciting to see the lead swap back and forth between you, the 65, Greg Evans in the 83, and all the other cars around you. Anything you think you could have done differently to get the checkered flag tonight?
Who knows? I didn't get a good restart like I wanted to, but Greg was pretty fast. He had a pretty good idea of what it took to hold guys off. He had been in the front most of the night. We had to work our way back because of the EOL we got at the start of the race. But yeah, all in all, a good night. We'll take it into next week.
Well, next week is an off week. It is week 13 next week, and it is 2 weeks until we go to ISM Raceway out in the desert, aka Phoenix Raceway, whatever you want to call it. Very tricky track, very flat, just over a mile in length. What are your thoughts about going to ISM in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to have the new package that the real Cup cars are going to have. So I don't know if iRacing's talked about that. So we'll have to wait and see. But as a rule, Phoenix is a pretty good track. I like it. It's a driver's track. You got to be smart.
Yeah, Phoenix personally is one of my favorite racetracks to race on with the Cup cars, just because, like you said, it is a driver's racetrack. But Auto Club can be that way with tire degradation, and of course, now that we have the tire rule in place in the American Esports Association Premier Series, what are your thoughts about that tire rule, and how does that change how you approach these races?
I mean, it adds some strategy to it. A lot of it, our races aren't that long, so sometimes it can be kind of a luck of a draw rather than a strategy play. If you wait till the late caution or you take them early, it's just kind of your pick. I feel like we see it in our developmental series a lot, but here tonight the tires didn't fall off a whole lot. We just kind of, I think you save so much tire in the draft that the fall off wasn't as bad as it would normally be.
Well, coming home tonight with a second place finish will help out with your current point situation as we continue through this season. But like I said, an off week next week for week 13 in iRacing. But before I let you go, any shout outs there, Kelsey?
Just Jimmy and Cody, my teammates. I think everybody got a top 10 tonight, so we'll take it and build off it in 2 weeks.
All right. Well, until we speak again, best of luck there, Kelsey, and hopefully you can get it to victory lane in a couple weeks' time at ISM.
All right, Peter, take care.
All right. Well, that was your second place finisher, and I believe Jim Foose has gotten himself down to the 19th hole and victory lane with the number 83 of Greg Evans. Jim?
Absolutely. And man, Greg, what a drive here tonight. I picked you at the beginning of the race. I know how you've raced, But tell us about this race for you, because that was an incredible drive all night long.
Yeah, man, it was I don't even know how to explain it. I was planning on running the bottom the whole race. I think everybody was. And I got trapped behind the Serve Pro cars at the beginning of the race, and I was like, man, let's just try the outside and see what it does. And once I found that line, I was able to kind of use it all night. I had to use the bottom a couple times, but man, this race went back and forth, and it was just it was a crazy night coming from the back of the field a little bit sometimes, or not back of the field, but from the back of a group, and just having to jockey for position and play a little bit of chess while you're doing it. It was almost like you're back at Daytona a little bit, but you have to save tires more. But man, it was a heck of a race for sure.
Yeah, we caught you there towards the end of the race when the last pit stop happened, and you got caught behind the pack. And actually, you didn't quite lose the draft, but you lost the pack by quite a bit. I think you were maybe a second or a second and a half behind the main pack that was the leaders at the time. And you fought your way back there. We watched it. We watched you make moves to the inside. We watched you make moves to the outside. We watched you do the old roller coaster up there on the outside from the top of the track down. Any lane that you preferred through the race? It seemed like it changed as you went on, but it looked like you made a lot of progress on the outside. How about that?
Yeah, I definitely preferred the outside. The only thing that I was on that last restart, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to use the outside like I want to, because it gives the guy on the inside the advantage of being able to squeeze you and kind of hold you up in the corner, getting in the corner. So I was a little worried about it, but once I cleared the 34 down the back stretch, I was like, yep, I'm staying on the bottom now. So outside was most of the race. Last lap, I wanted the bottom.
Yeah, it also leaves you a little vulnerable if somebody gets down there and then gets loose or gets tight, because either way, part of that car is coming up into yours unless you give a lot of room. But how about the tire limit during the race? Did that have any effect on you and your strategy, or did it pretty much fall into places as you like?
Yeah, man, that's one reason why I wanted to race here and try this, because when you put a tire limit in there, you really have to strategize. I mean, there's a lot of leagues that you might take 15 sets of tires, in a race, and that's just not realistic. And when you only got 2 sets of tires sitting there, and I think we had the first real caution about lap 20, and I wanted to pit, but I was like, there ain't no way, because we still had 80 laps left to go, and I was like, well, if you pit now, then you've got to make it at least 40 to 50 laps on a set of tires, and I didn't want to do that. So yeah, that tire strategy there, the tire limit, that really throws a kink into things, but it makes you really think and be your own crew chief instead of just coming down and pitting every time you get the chance. So yeah, that definitely played a role. We got the cautions whenever we needed them and when we wanted them. I didn't want to pit so soon on the last stint there, but when everybody else pitted, I was like, I've got to have a little bit of drafting help. And even whenever I stayed out 2 laps too long, it bit me in the butt, and kind of got lucky with some caution that got back up there. So yeah, that really adds some excitement to it and some strategy into it for sure.
Kind of speaking on that note as well, you were a member here a couple of years ago, and actually for a long time, probably a good part of the last 10 years. How has the competition changed from when you came in to when you left? I think you took off right towards the end of 2014, 2015, somewhere in there, I think was the last races that you ran with us before this season. How has that competition level changed, and who do you think is your biggest competition each week when you come to the track?
It's definitely changed a lot. I remember back whenever I was racing then, we had a Cup Series, but it wasn't nothing like this. I think our main divisions that I liked racing in was the short track stuff, and I still prefer short track racing. But the intensity, having this broadcast, and just the roster. I'll be honest with you, I don't really know the roster good enough yet to really know who my competition is, but I've kind of got I've kind of got an idea now. The Surf Pro cars look pretty good tonight. I think it's a 65. I can't remember his name, but he's been pretty strong the last 2 races with me. And I know a couple other guys, but with this aero package with the Cup cars, I like it and I don't like it because it brings everybody back together. I was telling my teammate Sam Crow, I was kind of complaining about it the last 10 laps, but I was like, man, I can pull 3 or 4 car lengths in a turn, but it makes no difference because I get down to turn 1 or the next turn, they're back on my bumper making a move. So it's kind of frustrating when you know that you've done a good job saving your tires and you just can't really do much with it. But we kind of got, it's a little bit of luck. It makes it a little more excitement for the fans. But yeah, I'm looking forward to some short track racing coming up at Phoenix for sure.
Hey, if it brings me up closer to your speed, I might just have to hop in one of these Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series rides before too much longer. Yeah, well, I was joking around with everybody in the production meeting earlier that I was going to race the Cup car next week. They didn't know that it was an off week. Then they figured it out. A couple laps into the race, one of the commercial breaks. Anyways, Greg, any shout outs that you have? I know you got quite a few sponsors on that Chevy.
Yes, sir, definitely. I got to thank Carolina SimWorks. Still working on my deal with duct tape and sure tape. I think I Can't Design, of course, for painting the seam, and thank my teammate Sam Crow and my other teammates John Varelis and Mike Reading didn't make the field tonight, but they're always a big help. And the guys from Steel Horse, I got to race with them much this year, but they are always a big help as well.
Yeah, that Steel Horse team, Jason runs a pretty tight ship of an organization over there and keeps you guys all kind of on the same track and doing the right thing. And what a great team to be associated with. Well, Greg, we appreciate your time tonight and congratulations on the win. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. You get to enjoy it for 2 weeks before we head off to Phoenix Raceway, which, by the way, is home of the championship race this season. So that's a little interesting. See how that goes. Kind of a shorter track, I guess you could call it. But what a run, Greg, and we're glad to have you as part of it. And can't wait for 2 weeks when we head off to Phoenix Raceway.
Definitely, guys, and thank you guys for broadcasting. Like I said last week, this being broadcast makes this a lot more interesting. It brings a lot more excitement to it, and makes it easier to get sponsors and stuff as well. So I appreciate all you guys do, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Well, that is tonight's race winner, driver of the number 83 machine, Greg Evans. And I'll tell you what, Jim, put on an absolute clinic here tonight, leading quite a few laps. But why don't we bring up tonight's race results? And there you go, bottom of the screen. Greg Evans led 39 laps tonight, led the most, and en route to taking home the checkered flag. Kelsey Rogers comes home second. Alan Young snuck up there into the top 3 right at the end, but great way to kind of have a walk-off small minor podium right there in third position, getting right up there into the top 3 right at the end. Woody Mahan coming home 4th. Eric Stanford coming home in 5th. Troy Haight comes home in 6th, and we kind of had a quiet night from Troy Haight, but he stuck up there for a good finish. Jimmy McKee coming home 7th. Cody Spiker 8th. Michael Krobach recovering from some damage when he made contact with the number 55 of Brian Yazik, finishing inside the top 10. And Tony Schoen rounding out your top 10 there, Jim.
Yeah, Brian Yazik brought the number 55 home in the 11th position with Edward Bray in 12th. Tyler Seville, one of those guys I talked about early in the race, brought it home in the 13th position. Sam Crow, we just talked about him with Greg Evans, finished in the 14th position. Richard Stallings rounds out your top 15. Tim Knott brings it home in the 16th position with his Dirty Bird Sim Racing teammate, Jason Stewart, in 17th. David Wilson in the 3-wide TV, number 61, gets the 18th position. James Lorello, he was spotlighted early in the race, comes home in 19th with the number 3. And Richard Fletcher, the guy with the fastest lap in practice tonight, comes home in the 20th position.
And blackjack position, you have the number 51 to Mitch Brown, your reigning series champion, who hasn't had the start to 2020 that he was hoping for. 22nd, the number 71 to Adam Jersky had a lot of damage on that 71 machine, but comes home 22nd. Jared Haggerty, 23rd. Jake Douglas in the 49 also was in the wars tonight, comes home 24th. John Jenkins, winner last week at Las Vegas, overcame some diversity in this race to come home 25th. Ty Hester, winner at Daytona, 26th. Andy Veltman coming home 27th in the 97. Shane Parrish back 28th in the number 81 machine. John Broussard, 29th. And Christopher Bouchard rounding out your top 30 there, Jim.
Yeah, Alex Giese had some trouble and finished 31st. He was one lap down. Brandon Stokes, we saw him make a donut run there on the backstretch, 3 laps down in 32nd. Travis McDaniel, we watched him have a front-running night all night long, and then a late spin there. 4 laps down in 33rd. Clarence Bonner, 5 laps down in 34th. Steve Buhala, 35th, 8 laps behind. David Washington, after his 2 incidents here in the race, 13 laps down in 36th. Will Warsler with a tough night, 28 laps down in 37th. Michael Whiting, 33 laps down in 38th. And then 2 guys that were in that first crash just after the green flag. Craig Stykes, 100 laps down in 39th. And rounding out the field, Mark Cohn, who made it about 100 feet in the race, 101 laps down, finishes in 40th position.
Yeah, tough night for those right there at the end. But before we go, got to give a few shout-outs to some of the series sponsors. Hacksaw PC for jumping on board and giving away a PC at the end to the champion of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, Serve Pro, DB Sim Racing, American Regardless, Glassdoor Brewing, Victory Lane Quick Oil Change, Kirkwood Transportation, of course, sponsoring the Kirkwood Transportation 200, Patriot Media and Marketing, Step Tire, and Falcon Race Wraps. Of course, those are the series sponsors, so go check them out. I want to give a shout out to our friends over at SimTV for the camera package and our friends over at OCR TV for the graphics package. But gotta say, tonight, Jim, pretty interesting race. A lot of different strategies. It all played out for that number 83 to get the win, but it's going to be 2 weeks' time at ISM. What are you expecting to see at that very tricky flat racetrack?
Well, I don't think we're going to see pack racing, but we're going to see that big short track kind of racing, that New Hampshire Gateway Phoenix style racing whenever we go there. You're going to see some cars get away by a little bit, but as much as they get away, they're going to run into the back of the pack. Remember, this field size expanded 4 cars from 36 last year up to 40 this year, and we had a lot of lap traffic in the season, the race last season. So should be a pretty entertaining race. It's definitely one that you don't want to miss here on 3 Wide TV. You guys are going to have a lot of fun up in the booth as I have the assignment of going over to race control, which is not as comfortable of a chair as what you guys have over here in the TV booth, and they don't bring us very many snacks during the race. So be a fun one out there at Phoenix, and can't wait to get there in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll have to save you some donuts after that race. How about that? But nonetheless, Jim, thanks for joining us in the booth here tonight. Got to give a shout out to Carlos Acosta, manning the cameras each and every week. But from myself, Jim, and Carlos Acosta, we bid each and every one of you good night. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time here for more American Sim Racing Hacksaw PC's Premier Series Racing. See ya!